The dude thought he was trippin' when he heard that crazy proposal. This young lady just offered him to share a bed with a girl who's probably there to collect his soul. No way in hell he's sleeping next to her. She's Nadia Balazit, for crying out loud. She's gotta be kidding herself. This guy would never get involved with a Balazit. Glenn's words cut the poor girl deep, but even after he left, Nadia desperately hoped she could win him over. Seems impossible, right? It's a total nightmare for everyone else. It's tough and hurts a pampered kid to hear words that cold. But for Nadia, this is huge. She was so happy and grateful to the Marquis, she just hopes he keeps his word. Nadia's the Balazit family's illegitimate kid, and her life's been a total wreck. Her stepsister took all her anger and pain out on her, thinking she wasn't good enough. That girl was her dad's puppet, and he used her every which way to help the family. And on top of that, her fiancé helped bring about her death. God must have thought her life was pathetic too, because when Nadia opened her eyes again, she was back to being 20. This second shot at life is full of new chances, where the old rules don't apply. This time, Nadia's gonna take down everyone who pushed her this far. Now she'll live only for revenge. All that's left is to get started. And to kick things off, she pretended to be head over heels and married the Balazit family's longtime enemy. Her husband goes by the impressive name of Marquis Winterfeld of the North. Since Nadia's the daughter of his enemy, there's no way he could actually be in love with her. She really thought everything was going exactly according to plan. Of course, clumsy as she is, she twisted her ankle, but thankfully the Marquis caught her before she ate dirt. Though, compared to that, she thought they were way too close for comfort right now. When Nadia planned all this, she didn't factor in the fact that she couldn't control other people's feelings. And now she can't figure out why the Marquis has suddenly taken an interest in her. The kingdom's long and brutal war against the demons was finally won, all thanks to one hero. The people cheered their savior, the one who brought the war to an end, and his name was Lee Ji-ho. There are even more flattering ways to describe him: a warrior from another world, a slayer of dragons, and the fiancé of the Duke Balazit's cast-off daughter. Not long ago, Lady Nadia Balazit agreed to marry Lord Lee Ji-ho. Their marriage was arranged before Lee Ji-ho became a hero, and that's where the whole mess started. Nadia Balazit, the daughter of a concubine in the Balazit family, a puppet. This girl never dreamed her own father would acknowledge her, since Nadia was always compared to her spoiled little sister. Even the servants treated her like dirt. But suddenly, her father had a job for her, a chance to finally earn his respect. Marrying him would really help the Balazit family out, marrying Lee Ji-ho. Back then, Lee Ji-ho was a mercenary summoned from another world to protect the kingdom. The speed of his growth was seriously scary. Duke Balazit was sure that if he tied him to Nadia, it would definitely work to his advantage. So they entered into a sham marriage with Nadia, and they both became Balazit's pawns. Even though they were forced to marry, she still held on to the hope that one day they could live like a normal husband and wife. That's what naive Nadia thought until she walked right into a trap. Imprisoned, Nadia desperately tried to explain that there was a misunderstanding and begged them to call Lee Ji-ho. Even so, they still locked her up. Guess she didn't fully grasp the situation she was in back then. The thing is, Lord Lee Ji-ho isn't coming, not a chance. Ever since Nadia married him, everything's flipped. Now he's the most important guy in the whole country. And Korean Balazit figured his wife couldn't be someone like Nadia, so she didn't get what her sister meant by misunderstanding. She must have mistakenly thought Korean was the one who locked her up here. It must have been them and her dad involved. Nadia first thought it was because of their feud with her stepsister. That cracked Korean up. This is a major scandal that's blown up all over high society. To make it like the marriage never happened, there was only one way: get Nadia drunk at the upcoming banquet. They were gonna give her something to make her wasted, then they'd plant some guy they hired next to her. And when she woke up, they'd call everyone in. The more witnesses, the better. Then they'd call her actions scandalous. But the real kicker is, Nadia had no clue Lord Lee Ji-ho was even behind it. Come to think of it, he hasn't even bothered to visit her since that whole thing went down. Seems like he's just plain disappointed. Truth is, he orchestrated the whole thing himself, even the marriage to her, a concubine's daughter. He must have seen it as slumming it. If he'd just suggested a clean break, Nadia wouldn't have put up a fight. She's just damaged goods after all. Kinda dumb to hope for anything more. Karen's even spinning it, saying his reputation would take a hit, 'cause he's a war hero and all. That made Nadia realize her sister's here, 'cause she feels sorry for him now. He's the victim all of a sudden. Whatever. A concubine's daughter can say whatever she wants. This is her last shot, 'cause it's all she's got left. Let's be real. Nobody's gonna take in a woman her husband dumped for messing around. Plus, Nadia's a bastard. The only guy she's gonna land is some blue-collar Joe. Guess it's time to go out with some dignity. Sis is gonna help her out just this once. Dad wanted Nadia to stay, but she decided to, check out early because she felt so bad. And Lord Ji-ho suddenly lost his wife? Nadia doesn't want that kind of fate for anyone. Then her family will protect their honor and the honor of the whole Balazit family. Only the name of the illegitimate kid will be stained by her, let's just say, questionable choices. Nadia didn't want to die, but she'll be remembered as a girl who knew shame. In that desperate moment, staring death in the face, she just couldn't believe it would end like this. Her whole life she did what her father said, always obedient. As a kid, she always watched her stepmother's reaction. She couldn't even, kick the bucket without her permission. And her stepsister took all her pretty things. In the end, Nadia died, having lived only 23 years. She thought that was it, the end, but when she opened her eyes, she was back to a day when she was 20. There wasn't a rope around her neck, so at first she didn't understand how she survived. In her darkest thoughts, she distinctly felt death enveloping her body, but she woke up in her room, healthy. Nadia was back in the past, and even if it seemed crazy, she had another shot. A chance to get even with her selfish fiancé, and her sister who laughed while she was being taken out, and her father who used her and then tossed her aside like she was garbage. Not everyone given a second chance could say whether they'd choose to live for love or have a long and healthy life. It seems the maid noticed she was awake and said as she entered that she should have rung the bell. Because of the young lady, the servants couldn't clean the room. After that, it was a total nightmare. The maid even forbade her from touching the mirror, afraid of fingerprints. Nadia was worried it might be a dream, but she really had somehow gone back in time, because that Sudanese woman is responsible for cleaning her room before Korean offed her 3 years ago. What's more, on the day of the banquet when Nadia was grabbed, she slipped her alcohol on Karen's orders. The girl drank it and passed out. Back then, she didn't realize it was a trap, but now things are different. She won't fall for it again. Surprisingly, Nadia changed her expression and thanked the maid for always cleaning up around here. As soon as she left the room, the head maid was already waiting for her in the hallway. The thing is, His Majesty the King has come to see the Duke, so Nadia needs to get ready to meet him. The King's visiting her father just in time. She'll be ready soon. Her father is Duke Balazit, and she's running seriously late for their meeting. My father looks at her like she's dirt. Nadia used to be terrified of that look, obedient and trembling. The Duke decided to tell her everything on the way, so he told her to listen up. They're talking about the victory ceremony. Also, the question will come up of Nadia awarding Lord Ji-ho with a laurel wreath. She needs to agree. So, turns out the king's here for the Kalam Expedition victory celebration. Apparently these ceremonies are a long-standing tradition. In it, a girl of marriageable age places a laurel wreath on the hero the ceremony's for. In other words, it's an admission of love for the war hero. The catch is, one of the guys getting honored at this ceremony is a northerner, which means he's the South's worst enemy. He probably wants to shift the focus, letting Nadia give the wreath to Lee Ji-ho. They want to tie them together through marriage. Even if Nadia refuses, her father won't listen, but she needs a chance to break free from her father and Lee Ji-ho. Finally, the door opened, where the king and her stepsister were already waiting for her and her father. His Majesty's been expecting the Duke. He hopes the Duke knows why he's here. Lord Balazit claims he has no clue. He's not a mind reader after all. But the king thinks he's playing dumb. See, the Calais Expeditionary Force is demanding a victory parade. Duke Balazit believes they've earned it, so he's letting them have their way. But the real problem isn't the parade, it's who's in that unit. One of the top commanders with the biggest achievements, their worst enemy from the south, Marquis Winterfell. Then the Duke promised to shift the focus of the ceremony elsewhere. He's got a plan to tie the northerners' hands. He took everything Nadia's father said seriously, without hesitation. No wonder the northerners are ticked off. They're gonna trap Marquis Winterfell with marriage. They'll use their authority to order him to get hitched. Duke Balazit suggested his bride be the daughter of a southern noble. That way they can stop him. Hearing that, Nadia was instantly thrown back to the past. After she and Lee Ji-ho tied the knot as a reward for his success on the expedition, Marquis Winterfell got married too. Of course, his bride was a girl from a family that the king introduced through her father. Rumor had it she was always crying because the Duke was so awful, and eventually she just ran off. Nadia felt bad for the girl. But if she were that girl now, her father's puppet, then maybe she could dodge marrying Lee Ji-ho and avoid the payback. Nadia can't jump the gun here. It's too soon to say anything. When the king asked who would volunteer their daughter, the Duke felt like he didn't trust his subjects' loyalty. After all, people should be willing to sacrifice their daughter for the good of the country. Realizing this was her chance, Nadia suddenly turned to the king, wanting to say something. If they needed someone to go to the enemy camp up north, then she was willing to do it. She's from the Balasit family, who've served His Majesty their whole lives, so she's the most trustworthy person we've got. So, this girl asked for permission to marry the enemy for the sake of the king and the country's well-being. She's not gonna be a pawn anymore. So she's planning to marry Marquis Winterfell? Dad thinks she's lost her mind. She must not realize how deep Dad's beef with Winterfell actually goes. According to the king, their families are sworn enemies, so Marquis Winterfell might not even take Nadia as his wife. But still, the girl claims she's got a brilliant plan. At the ceremony, she's going to present the laurel wreath to Marquis Winterfell. Hearing this, her furious father called her a fool, thinking he'd just accept it from her like that. Come to think of it, nobody's ever refused a laurel wreath before. Even so, the Duke's still convinced that these things are prearranged. They already planned for her to hand the wreath to Li Ji-ho. Nadia totally eavesdropped while making tea, and now she knows the Marquis himself demanded this whole ceremony. The wreath ceremony is the whole point, but if someone refuses it, all eyes are gonna be on that poor sap. Sure, a hero's only as good as the people's love, but love between two people is way more interesting and exciting. People forget his achievements fast, so Nadia's sure he won't screw it all up himself. Then it hit the Duke like a ton of bricks. His Majesty could make it so he can't refuse, leaving him no choice. So Nadia told the king to push for the marriage, saying the official's daughter is begging for it. Then, he'll look like a generous ruler who just wants to make some noble lady's dream come true. That's one sneaky plan, but it's gonna sound super convincing to His Majesty. Still, he's a little worried about sending the Duke's daughter into enemy territory. So first things first, the king decided to talk to the Duke himself and see what he thinks about all this. Honestly, the Duke had no idea his daughter had such a brilliant plan up her sleeve. At this ceremony, his daughter will present a wreath to Marquis Winterfell. After His Majesty leaves, Nadia's in for a serious talking to. Her father thinks she's completely lost it. Karen knew her sister was dumb, but not this dumb, to go through with all this knowing who the Marquis is. She voluntarily decided to go north, knowing the north is our enemy. Furious, Korean told her father to say something, but he said it was none of her business. He needs an explanation from Nadia about what she was thinking, proposing something like that, especially since the Duke made her role perfectly clear. Looks like the girl dared to disobey an order, and even though she got the king's permission, if she can't convince her father, she's gonna lose again. She needs to make the right move, so she said she has no desire to marry a foreigner. Even if it's only half, she still has Balasit blood running through her veins. Dad's gonna be flipping out that her stupid pride means we gotta hand all the glory over to Marquis Winterfell. Nadia tried to calm herself, telling herself she was done living like a pawn. She said it was more important to stop a possible rebellion. That's why Dad was trying to distract people from the ceremony. When the Duke asked, all surprised, how she knew that, the girl knew she'd hit the nail on the head. The reason Dad's so touchy about the Northerners getting famous is because the royal family's a puppet of the Balasit Duchy. He's got the king himself in his pocket. There have been plenty of times province heads have started a riot, so Dad's worried. Even if it's not at this ceremony, they'll still meet up in secret. Whoever gets the glory, we gotta keep an eye on him. And Nadia thinks this ceremony is the perfect place to give a drink to the animal that's thirsty and put a collar on him. If she marries the Marquis, they can find out about changes up north faster. Thanks to her sacrifice, they can strengthen their position. That's why the girl asked for permission to do this for their family. Okay. That actually makes sense. This whole expedition didn't go how the Duke planned. The North's success is forcing his hand with this ceremony. But if Nadia heads north as Winterfell's wife, it's a prime opportunity to plant a spy right in their inner circle. Looks like Duke Balasit agreed to do whatever his second daughter wants. Hearing that her father was actually going to send her sister north, Karine blew a gasket and brought up Li Ji-ho. But her father quickly calmed her down, saying he could find him a new bride. As for Nadia, he knows damn well she's not doing this for him. So first and foremost, he's curious to know what she expects in return for her sacrifice. Nadia wants freedom. Once her father finally takes down his enemy, all she wants is to live like a wealthy widow. Widows and divorced women are off the social radar. Even if Nadia doesn't remarry, she doesn't want to carry this family's name anymore. She doesn't want to be tied down to anyone. She doesn't want a normal life. All she wants is for her dad to promise her that. The deal went off without a hitch. Ever since Nadia went back in time, she's managed to avoid marrying Li Ji-ho. By chance, she noticed an incident. A maid was accused of touching the lady's things. But Nadia didn't even flinch. Korean, the puppet, got the boot, too. The girl's got a shot to handle everything on her own. She's got a long way to go before revenge. She needs to map out her next moves in detail. While Nadia was plotting how to take down the Balazit duchy, it was time for the ceremony. All the preparations were finally complete. Time for Marquis Winterfeld to lead the squad. They're heading out. Flower petals flew everywhere, celebrating the squad's victory. Watching the soldiers march in formation, people cheered them on with joy. Everything's the same as in her past life, from the clothes and jewelry Nadia's wearing to the seats everyone's sitting in. If she hadn't butted in, things would be playing out exactly like they did before. All worried about her necklace, Korean said she only borrowed it on their dad's orders, so she asked for it back after the ceremony. She's saying she lent her sister their mom's jewelry, but Nadia doesn't give a damn, 'cause she's definitely ditching this place. The squad's arriving soon, so Dad warned Nadia to get ready. Now her job is to try not to screw things up and hand the wreath to Glenn Winterfell with some class. There was only one thing different about this ceremony compared to the last time. The main guy Nadia's handing the wreath to is Marquis Glenn Winterfell, but behind him was Lord Lee Ji-ho, the one who should have been the hero of this ceremony, her ex-husband. Even though they didn't marry for love, it seemed like there was some kind of connection between them. To make it like the marriage never happened, there was only one way. Nadia had to get some drinks at the banquet. Just thinking about Lord Lee Ji-ho suggesting this is making Nadia's heart race like crazy. For the feats of Glenn Winterfell, the king bestows glory upon him. It's a real honor for them. His Majesty heard Winterfell's contributions were especially impressive on this expedition, and hearing that warmed his heart. Bowing, Marquis Winterfell declared that the rumors were exaggerated. Looking at him, the king's reminded of Winterfell's previous ruler. He was an outstanding knight too. The knight's loyalty is commendable. If his bedridden father knew of his exploits, he'd be thrilled. Nadia knows the Marquis's father is a sensitive topic, but the Duke still brought it up. The king decided he should reward the Marquis's family for their devotion. But it turned out Glenn was happy just knowing that. These young guys are so serious these days. By the king's decree, the official ceremony began. Everyone's gathered here today to celebrate the hero's victory. Right after that, the families started greeting each other, and Duke Balazit was the first to meet Mr. Glenn. But Winterfell reminded him that he inherited the Marquis title and suggested the Duke step down if his memory was failing him. He became a Marquis so young, and doesn't think there's anything too difficult for a man in his prime. Duke Balazit thinks the young man really resembles the former Marquis in his passion. We're talking about the guy who had that unfortunate incident, so he feels bad for him. Time to hand out the gifts prepared for the heroes. Finally, it's Nadia's turn. Now it's clear why he happily agreed to host the ceremony. The Marquis decided to change the meaning of the ceremony, so the owner of that wreath must be Lee Jo-ho. Originally, this ceremony was just for him alone, so the Marquis should just let it go. Come to think of it, this expedition took longer than he thought. There must be a ton of stuff piled up back home. It'd be sweet if they coughed up a decent reward for this. But instead of a fat paycheck, Glenn Winterfell finds Duke Balazit's daughter standing right in front of him. She's looking at him all flustered, like she's overwhelmed by the crowd. Suddenly, the Marquis gets right up in her face and whispers that she's mistaken because she's nervous. Lee Ji-ho is that guy with the black hair standing behind him. Glenn told her to slowly head that way. Everyone will overlook her little mistake since she's flustered. But when the lady confidently says she's not mistaken, Marquis Winterfell's totally lost. Marquis Winterfell has been on Nadia's mind for ages, so she asked him to accept the laurel wreath. The girl fell head over heels for him the second she laid eyes on him. She just knew he was the one who could take care of her for life. Looks like Lady Balazit doesn't get what it means when a grown woman gives a guy a wreath. The Marquis is way harsher than people say, but Nadia's in the know. She just confessed her feelings right then and there, and the crowd went wild, cheering and everything. The king, all pleased, pointed out the beautiful lady was waiting, so he asked the Marquis what he was waiting for. But Glenn's totally sure he hasn't earned this wreath and can't take it. Truth is, Nadia expected this reaction and knew he wouldn't accept it that easily. Either way, marrying her would be a win for the Marquis too, no two ways about it. If he's worried about her being the daughter of a concubine, she told him to just take the wreath and not sweat it. The Marquis immediately got hit with a wave of confusion from the crowd, like he's making the young lady look bad. Everyone figures he's taking out his anger on this young lady because of his beef with the Duke. Everyone was practically begging Glenn to accept Lady Balazit's heartfelt affection. So, they wanted to sabotage the ceremony with his own two hands. Either way, with everyone breathing down his neck, the Marquis of Winterfell had no choice but to accept the garland. It's a long story, so he decided to continue later with Lady Balazit. Nadia pulled it off, and that's how she managed to change the future. She really killed it today. Her father's convinced it was worth it just to see his bewildered face. Now his rival has no choice but to accept Nadia's offer. Right before the Balazit family left, Lord Jiho suddenly rushed outside and asked the Duke for a word. He must be beat after traveling all this way, but he won't rest because he needs to ask something. Lee Jiho heard that Lady Balazit was supposed to give him the garland at today's ceremony, so he wants to know what happened. Duke Balazit said it was urgent, so he couldn't give the Lord a heads up, but he promised he'd find him a more suitable match. Thing is, Jiho didn't come to find a new bride. He wants to know why the plans changed. There was a reason, actually, but Duke Balazit thinks this isn't the place to discuss it. This whole thing has seriously pissed off the young lord. He thinks this is way out of line. True or not, the ceremony already happened, so Duke Balazit doesn't get what the kid still wants. Either way, he admitted it was his bad for not warning the Lord, so he promised to make it up to him. And he said it hoping Jiho understood what he was getting at. In the end, they came to an understanding, and Lord Lee Jiho took his leave. After what happened, Duke Balazit told his daughters to get in the carriage immediately, wanting to get out of there ASAP. Before leaving, Nadia glanced back at the Lord one last time and saw an expression on his face she couldn't quite decipher. Not that it matters now, she doesn't care anymore. After all, he was the first one to betray her. Sometime later, a Winterfell servant overheard everyone at the market buzzing about the ceremony. The lady, who's rarely seen, confessed her love for Marquis Winterfell. The aides convinced the Marquis needs to do something about it, or they'll force him into marriage. But Glenn thinks it's already too late. He learned about it from a letter. The second the aide picked up the envelope, he figured it was from the royal family. Judging by what's written in there, all coded of course, they're telling the Marquis to get hitched. Clearly, if Glenn keeps refusing, they'll see it as straight-up defiance of the king's orders. That really ticked off the aide. I mean, the Marquis even agreed to that expedition, no questions asked. Plus, his army and lands are always on time with their taxes and they still doubt him? Marquis Winterfell's pretty sure Duke Balazit's been running his mouth, trying to frame him for treason. The north, where Winterfell is, wasn't always part of the kingdom. They were brought under control a century ago. North and south, different cultures, different everything, just never really meshed well. The northern army's been guarding the border against monsters, keeping the south safe and sound, and their fields fertile. But the southerners looking at them just see a bunch of wild, scary northerners. That's how the previous Marquis and Marchioness Winterfell ended up in that accident, thanks to some backstabbing. And Duke Balazit's looking like the prime suspect in all this. And now the Duke's daughter is handing Marcus Winterfell a laurel wreath. What a crock. Come to think of it, there are two reasons they want this marriage to happen. First, to stop the northerners from forming an alliance through marriage. And second, to plant a spy in the enemy camp. It's the perfect way to get the jump on any potential rebellion. Also, according to people at the ceremony, Lady Nadia was supposed to give the wreath to Lord Lee Jiho. They say he was totally shocked by what happened. Rumor has it he and Lady Nadia secretly promised to unite their lives and hearts. Looks like the plan involving Lord Jiho was changed in a hurry, and nobody bothered to tell the guy. So Marquis Winterfell was right. That wreath was meant for Lord Jiho. Still, he'll have to play ball with His Majesty, or they'll find a reason to come down on Winterfell. And as for her being his daughter, no matter how you slice it, she's just a pretty duchess's daughter who can't do anything. In a foreign land without a single ally, she won't even last a week dealing with the servant's attitude. The Marquis is sure of it. There's no other way. She'll want to come back home on her own, and he'll be able to wash his hands of it. So the Winterfell and Balazit families are officially joined. The wedding went down at Winterfell, but the engagement party was in the capital. Now that they've got all that sorted, the Balazit mansion is throwing a huge celebratory bash. The nobles who used to laugh at Nadia, her dad enjoying all this. Now's not the time to dwell on them. After all, Nadia's just a noblewoman head over heels, totally focused on one guy. She sensed something at the ceremony. The Marquis of Winterfell's getting even more wary of the Balazit family. So first she needs to show him she's not a threat. Noticing the lady's pensive face, the Marquis suddenly decided to catch her off guard and find out what she's thinking. Without missing a beat, Nadia told him she was just thinking how handsome Glenn is. She's calling him by his first name even though they're not close, so he told her to call him Marquis Winterfell. That just made the girl even happier, and she called him Glenn again. That nasty grin makes you wonder if she'll be smiling so wide up north. Looking into her eyes right now, he'd do anything to find out. They really do see Nadia as some poor thing who made the mistake of falling for a northerner. Everyone thinks she's too ashamed to even look up. They all need to leave, because Nadia can't force another smile. It's been so hard, her whole body aches from forcing herself to smile all day. That evening, Lord Jiho searched for the Duke's daughter for a long time and finally found her on the balcony. Truth is, he came because he wants to ask her something, even though Nadia has nothing left to say to him. Lee Jiho is burning with impatience to know if Lady Balizet really hates the idea of marrying him that much. The question caught her completely off guard. She froze, speechless. From where we're standing, it looks like she'd rather endure the worst treatment and be stuck in enemy territory than be with him. Honestly, Nadia doesn't even know what he's talking about, since getting married wasn't a done deal from the start. But when the Lord claimed he knew the plans changed because of her request, she was left without a comeback. He figured he wasn't good enough to hear the truth because he's an outsider, because his background is a mystery. Hearing that, Nadia was totally lost. He was the one who screwed her over first. She's sure he wasn't thrilled about their marriage either. She's not stupid. The Lord was worried about getting judged for where he came from, but Nadia's just a cast-off. So she's betting that if Jiho had the chance to marry Korean, he wouldn't have hesitated for a second. Just like she thought, he's got nothing to say. Guess Korean was telling the truth. They're just not right for each other, so it's time they both moved on. Lady Balizet's completely exhausted. At least she can be alone in the garden gazebo. But suddenly, quick footsteps. Her sister knew exactly where to find her. And first and foremost, Korean really needs to talk to her. Of course, Nadia doesn't get why she's here. Can't she have a single minute to herself? The thing is, Nadia's chasing after some guy and dragging the family name through the mud, and Korean can't just stand by and watch. As a true daughter of the Balizet family, she's obligated to warn her sister. Honestly, the poor thing's just jealous that Dad only cares about Korean. She's desperate for his attention. That's why she's acting out. But no matter how hard she tries, Nadia's just his pawn. When you think about it, they're not so different. Nadia couldn't marry Lee Jiho, so now it's Korean's turn. Karen took those words way too hard and started angrily insisting she's a duchess's daughter. It's weird she still believes her dad, since she's just a tool for him to reach his goals. Still, she can't stand the idea of her sister putting her in the same category as trash like herself. Speaking of which, Korean's wearing a piece of jewelry today that Nadia's mom got from their dad. He gave it to her because he thought she'd have a son, but Nadia showed up instead, so she doesn't deserve it. If she wants it back, her sister told her to get on her knees and beg. On her knees, she has to say she's sorry for acting so recklessly towards her sister. Karen will forgive the poor thing if she begs convincingly enough. Otherwise, she'll just ditch it. She's got tons of trinkets, so who cares if one goes missing? Seems like a good deal for her stepsister, but judging by Nadia's face, she's not feeling it. Afraid her sister would toss the necklace, she suddenly needed to double-check she'd actually give it up. This quiet girl's finally showing her colors and pissing off Korean. Time for a lesson. Korean, so generous, told her sister to kneel. That's when Nadia shoved her back hard. The Duke's daughter splashed into the water and screamed she'd make her pay for that. Well, now Nadia's curious what'll happen if she doesn't make her pay. Either way, nobody was giving that pendant back, no matter how much she begged. Something similar happened in her past life. Back then, she did everything Karen said, but still never got the necklace back. She spent a lot of her childhood wondering why her sister hated her so much. She wondered if Korean would ever accept her as a sister if she just did whatever she was told. But then Nadia realized her stepsister hated her for absolutely no good reason, so now she's given her a real reason, a legit excuse to hate her guts. This isn't the Nadia that Korean knows. It's creepy, like she's a totally different person. Just then, voices. The guard spotted someone in the water. Lady Balizet was pulled from the pond and immediately wrapped in a warm blanket. Her father demanded Nadia explain immediately what all the racket was in the middle of the night. That nasty stepsister immediately clung to her father and blamed everything on that dirty little girl. Convinced this was the end, Korean confessed that she was the one who pushed her into the pond. The heroine found it hilarious how her sister, despite all the hate, could lie like that. After all, Korean didn't listen to her, still went to the edge, and Nadia warned her it was dangerous. She was just trying to pull her away. In a fit of anger, Korean blurted out that she threatened her sister with the necklace, after which she pushed her into the water. Right away, there was whispering behind me. People realized the youngest daughter had a real nasty streak. In that instant, the girl knew she'd screwed up big time. Her dad immediately told her to shut her mouth. She was freezing, so he told her to get back to her room and rest up before she caught a cold. Insisting it was all a lie, the girl tried to explain, but her father ordered her to be taken to her room. Looks like the sisters had a little spat. The Duke said he was sorry it happened on such a bright day. That Balizet noble daughter really brought shame on the family. Everyone knew it was only a matter of time. Her father didn't take Karane's side, even though Nadia expected him to. She didn't even realize her honor meant so much to him. Whatever, it doesn't matter, she got Mom's necklace back. Now, with a clear conscience, the girl can finally leave this place. Soon, Marquis Winterfell, with his squad in tow, finally set off. The knight spotted his lord and just lit up, grinning from ear to ear. Fabian was being way too loud, so Marquis Winterfell told him to get back. Just to be sure, the kid still had to ask, even though it was kinda rhetorical. He needs to know for sure if the lady's offer was the real deal. Truth is, the knight already knows she's playing him, but seeing her face during the ceremony, he almost thought she meant it. In that case, Marquis Winterfell warned him not to trust appearances. She's the Duke's daughter, she could stab you in the back at any moment. Just look at her dowry, she might be here to help in tough times, but she also might be watching you. Looks like the boss is right, so Fabian agreed to head back to his post. His job is to protect the lady. Walking alongside her after hearing all that, he's even more on edge now. Nadia was stoked when she saw the guard was already there. She wanted to talk to him, but he vanished, so she had to wait. Word is, they assigned that young guy as her personal guard, so she figured she'd get his name. The knight introduced himself as Fabian Knox. She thought his name was super cool. Just like she thought he's totally awkward around her, dude's way too obvious about it. Truth is, she gets it. Everyone knows the Balazit and Winterfell families are enemies. But this knight's gonna realize soon enough that her feelings for the Marquis are for real. Remembering the master's orders, Fabian freaked and blurted out that he's just super shy. Knowing it's her first time up north, he offered to fill her in on the region while they travel. Major relief. Looks like Nadia's managed to crack through this junior knight's shell. The ride was so long and tiring that she didn't even notice herself drifting off to sleep. She woke up to a sudden knock on the window. Fabian was asking her to come outside for a sec. Then, as Nadia came out of the woods, she finally saw Winterfell's massive, luxurious mansion. Lady Balazit knew the wedding prep was rushed, but she wasn't expecting this. Glenn's mom brought this wedding dress. The wedding's coming up quick, so they decided to go with it. You might have heard, my lady, but the North's been hit hard with monster attacks and a bad harvest, so folks are struggling. The mistress explained that's why they're planning a smaller wedding ceremony. Surprisingly, Nadia gets it. As long as she's with Glenn, it doesn't matter how big the wedding is. Besides, she's a Marchioness now, so she's got to think about her people. If the young Marchioness feels that way, the mistress can rest easy, and hopes she always will. Grace Ground, Glenn's aunt. The last Marchioness passed, and the last Marquise is sick, so she's the head lady of the house now. That dress looks amazing on Nadia, and Mrs. Grace is positive that when Glenn sees her, he's gonna flip. Seriously, because of her dad, Glenn's even being a jerk to her. But Auntie's sure she shouldn't sweat it. She's so gorgeous, Glenn'll come around eventually, and Mrs. Grace will help her out. Nadia just needs to focus on winning him over. Nadia totally gets what Mrs. Grace is hinting at. She knows Glenn hasn't accepted her yet, but now she just needs to remember her words. Before leaving, Mrs. Grace said she hopes Milady knows what's most important about, winning someone over. Nadia needs to get ready because it sounds like she's talking about the wedding night. She figured Glenn wouldn't even want to touch her, so he'd refuse to spend the night. But there's a tiny chance that this guy might actually suggest they stay together that night. After talking with Madame Grace, Lady Balazit couldn't stop thinking about it. Sleeping together? The thought just wouldn't leave her head. It's crazy to think about. They'll be sharing a room right after the wedding. But she doesn't know if Glenn will even want to stay in the same bed, since he pretty much hates her. But if he does want to, she's clueless what to do. She totally wasn't expecting this. Nadia was only thinking about sharing a room. The vow kiss completely slipped her mind. Glenn will probably just fake the kiss, so there's no way they'll be sharing a bed, right? Nadia forgot how to breathe when the Marquise just went for it and kissed her. She wasn't expecting that kind of move. The whole day's been a total shock, and now, just like that, they're husband and wife. She's been racking her brain all night, trying to figure out what to do. Time's running out. Her husband will be here soon. The thought of them sleeping together freaks her out, especially after that real kiss. The second Glenn barged in, Nadia bolted and practically jumped into his arms. She said she was waiting for him, but deep down she's got no clue what to do next. But the joy on her face crashed when the Marquis told her not to get any ideas. He'd never get involved with the Duke Balazit's daughter. No way. Glenn came by specifically to tell her this to her face. Nadia, totally lost, tried to stop him, but Glenn slammed the door right in her face. Poor Balazit girl burst into tears right there. Her feelings are real, but the Marquis is so cold. What a relief. She instantly calmed down, hoping he'd never change his mind about things. Seeing the dinner all laid out, she realized she hadn't eaten anything all day. After stuffing her face, she didn't have a worry in the world. This bed is so soft, she'll be out in no time. The next day, rumors started flying about what went down yesterday. Word is, the master stormed out of her room right away, didn't even stay 5 minutes. He was seriously ticked off. A maid overheard the missus crying for a long time. According to Aiden, the master's handmaiden, she looked like a girl who'd just been rejected by her crush. The maids thought the missus would be all stuck up, but still, they're sure the master wouldn't do her like that. Looks like the knights need to get these maids to zip it. But Lord Winterfell told everyone to ignore it, figuring they wouldn't take a liking to her anyway. He started wondering what that girl was up to since she doesn't have many options. The knight said she's officially the Marchioness now, so she's gotta run the estate. Those words made the Marquis realize she was fully committed to spying on them. In that case, the master assigned Fabian, her guard, to keep an eye on her, to watch if she was doing anything shady, like sending letters back home. Now Fabian has to be with her all the time and report everything back to the boss. Glenn sent Fabian to guard Lady Balazit. From now on, he'll be looking after her. The girl was so happy that the Marquise thought she'd be uncomfortable with strangers, so he sent him. The truth is, the guy came to watch her, not protect her, and she's so happy he almost feels bad. Nevertheless, he'll wait by the door so she can go about her business in peace. So he's decided to watch Nadia all day long. Now she needs to somehow convince him she's not a spy. First of all, the girl asked Gordon to bring the account book so she could study it. No sooner had she learned a little bit than she wondered why they were so deep in debt. She knew things weren't great in Winterfell in her past life, but this amount is insane. According to Gordon, it's just the way things are up north. Nothing they can do about it. Every few years they get hit by a monster wave. Their land is super depleted, so resources are scarce. Remembering the king's monster-slaying rewards, Nadia decided to find out where that money goes. Truth be told, those funds are the only reason they've made it this far. After the Kalia expedition, they can't participate in expeditions. Nadia didn't even realize war cost so much. Then Gordon accidentally let slip that they didn't want to participate, but someone demanded they do their duty. She immediately knew that by someone he meant her father. Anyway, she'd cooked up a plan to make some cash, but she didn't realize the debt was this huge. Besides, she's curious how Marquis Winterfell paid off his debts in his past life. Actually, Gordon has a solid plan, seeing as Milady is now part of the Winterfell family too. In these tough times for her new family, if she uses her dowry to pay off the debts, she can really help out. And Nadia was wondering why the butler so easily gave her the seal and the key to the warehouse. So he's testing her, asking her to solve their financial problems. However, she can't do that, and she's not saying that because she doesn't want to help the Winterfell family. Looking at the expense ledger, you can see that the debt slowly grows every year. The problem is unique to the north, so Nadia's dowry won't solve it. Eventually, the debt will just reappear and keep growing. It's not that Gordon hasn't thought of this, but he was sure their lands were in a dead-end situation right now. That's why Nadia's going to fix what makes our territory so messed up. Of all the words the Marquis Winterfell understood, it was that she couldn't use the dowry money. Actually, she didn't say that. What she did say was, "It's better to start growing the dowry than to pay off the debt right now." That's what the lady said. The other guards were super surprised Fabian believed her, 'cause she just seems nice. Now they're doubting whether they can trust this blockhead to keep an eye on her. There are a ton of things to take care of, both here and there. Nadia needs to make some serious cash. As she passed the first floor, she suddenly heard shouting. Some guests showed up at the estate, convinced the Marquis is loaded. Poor Gordon's trying to calm them down. Confused, Lady Balazit immediately went downstairs to figure out what was going on. The guest instantly recognized her as the Duke Balazit's daughter, but she asked him to call her Marchioness Winterfell. Then the guy introduced himself as Shylock, along with Wayne from the Northern Merchants Alliance and Katarina from the Krita trading firm. Nadia cut the crap and asked what they were talking about. Like some crazed loan shark, Mr. Shylock demanded she hand over the money, saying the payment was almost due. Turns out they'd heard she brought a hefty dowry with her. If she said they couldn't pay this time either, these guys would snatch up Windshadow Plains, which was put up as collateral. Windshadow Plains is the only fertile land in this whole dried-up territory. Nadia remembered how the Marquis paid off the debts in her past life. He just gave them the land. That thought made her sick. The debt repayment date was only 3 months away. Obviously, if they lose the plains, the Winterfell family is totally screwed. No matter how powerful the Marquis's army is, without cash, he can't become the leader who unites the North. So Nadia asked for 2 months. If they postponed the payment for 2 months, she'd figure it out. Honestly, Mr. Shylock doesn't get why she needs 2 more months when she brought a dowry with her. Nadia says she's using her dowry to start a business. The Winterfell family has close ties with merchants up north. It'd be great if they remembered their long-standing friendship and gave her a hand. In return, she promised she'd never forget their help. Of course, if the business goes south, they can just take the land she put up as collateral. They've got nothing to lose. Just as you'd expect from a Marchioness, Mr. Shylock is impressed by her cleverness. He's ready to answer right now, but he needs to talk it over with the other merchants. Nadia's willing to wait as long as it takes. Truth is, she's so naive. Obviously, the business of some girl who's never known hardship is gonna crash and burn. While the suckers are waiting, Shylock's gonna snatch up the best land. Once they were finally gone, Lady Balazit breathed a sigh of relief. Gordon, scared they'd lose the planes, decided to find out what kind of business she was talking about. Nadia was actually going to pay them back, just like she planned. She actually wanted to talk to him about it. She asked him to invite everyone who wanted to postpone their debt repayment to the mansion. She needed to buy something from them. Lady Balazit already said she'd start a business, but not everyone can get into a really important business. Now their job is to show what someone gets when they trust them and are willing to wait. The business Nadia was talking about is making herbal tea from prickly vines. She's sure she'll be successful. Prickly vine is a weed that only poor people use. It has no value, it's just a common weed. The girl asked them to buy it in bulk for her, but others think it's crazy that she calls it a business. According to Wayne, the price of this weed is pretty low, but you need some capital to buy it in market quantities. He almost choked when he found out the girl was going to spend her dowry on those weeds. She should have stocked up on dresses and jewels. We could have flipped those later. Last time she sounded so sure of herself, Wayne figured she had a solid plan. Didn't think she was this clueless. Out of nowhere, Katerina pipes up that it's a terrible business idea since thorny vines are worthless. There's tons of herbs that could replace it, plus with shipping and storage costs, they're gonna take a huge loss. These guys are way off. Nadia didn't invite them for a debate, she's hiring them, promising to pay above the odds. In that case, the merchants agreed to contact all the trading companies and secure the required volume of goods. The Marchioness is counting on them. She wants them to handle absolutely everything. It's been 2 months since then, and Aunt Grace heard that Glenn still hasn't worried about anything except her useless weed. It really threw her for a loop that her nephew's letting her keep messing around with this garbage. As far as Marquis Winterfell's concerned, she started this business with her dowry money, so he has no right to interfere. Thing is, Lady Grace isn't sure she can be trusted to run things, seeing as she's no good with money. Even though the debt's due soon, the Marquis isn't bringing it up. Auntie realized she let something slip, but before leaving, she made the kid promise to remember what she thinks about the family's future. The second the Marquise's office was empty, there was another loud knock at the door. Out of breath, Gordon rushed in, hoping the boss had already heard the news. Turns out they're saved. They won't have to give up the plane, all thanks to the lady. Meanwhile, in a small village down south, a little girl was sick, spending her last days with her mom, and she was in a lot of pain. What terrified her mother the most was her hand. She didn't even know when it got so red. Eventually, that girl also came down with something nasty, but it wasn't just her. For the past few months, not a day went by that they weren't burning bodies. It's not just their village suffering, but the whole kingdom, starting with the southern territories. The two country bumpkins' chat was cut short by a lord with some urgent news. Turns out they've finally found a cure for the plague. It's a tea made from thorny vine herbs, and they say it can heal you. Merchants, hearing this news, immediately decided to stock up on the thorny vine herb. But it turned out someone had already bought it all up. A huge line formed to buy the miracle cure. The woman was terrified her daughter would die, but luckily, she got the thorny rose herb cheap. According to Fabian, it's all thanks to the Marchioness's generosity. She made sure everyone could get cured. A decree was issued to start supplying the herbal tea at an affordable price, starting with the areas in the worst shape. Price gouging, reselling, and hoarding the herb are strictly prohibited. Everything was done to minimize the impact on the less fortunate. Wayne's only worried the southern territories will think they deliberately made the medicine available up north first. But Nadia thinks that's unlikely, especially since it wasn't Winterfell that bought up all the vine, it was Wayne. Besides, let's not forget who she is. She's Duke Balazit's daughter from the south. Prickly rose herb sold faster than expected. Because of that, the merchants who agreed to wait and help the business profited big time. 97,000 gold, and with that, Winterfell's debt to the Creta trading firm is settled. Shylock can't believe she paid off the debt, and what's more, she only offered partnerships to those who agreed to wait. Nadia suddenly mentioned the talks with the other merchants didn't go well, and he was so looking forward to a letter from Mr. Shylock. So, if that's the case, she only asked the people who helped her with the business to stay, and told everyone else to hit the road. Now she's just waiting for the day she meets Mr. Shylock again. He's looking forward to it too, and until then, he wished her all the best. After turning her dowry into a fortune, Nadia settled her debts and hopes the Marquis believes in her now. This all seems weird. She can't see the future, but somehow she knew what was coming. When she was down south, she accidentally saw a report from the head of the Aral lands, and that's when she guessed the plague would spread. The maid who looked after her as a kid used to live a nomadic life, and every night she'd tell the girl stories about it. And one time she said that the thorny vine grass could help with a deadly illness when a fever takes over your whole body. It's all a load of bull, of course. Nadia's got to say it to create an alibi for herself. Hearing that, Glenn immediately apologized for misunderstanding her. When she said she'd pay off all the debts once she made some money, he figured she was full of it. It's because her father's Duke Balazit, so the Marquis can't figure out why Nadia's helping him, without fearing her dad finding out. The girl was horrified, not understanding how he'd been listening to her all this time. She'd already said it multiple times. The thing is, Milady's got a thing for Master Winterfell. She's mentioned it before. Whatever the reason, she cleared Winterfell's debts, so if she has a request, Glenn will grant it. Nadia could have said anything that was on her mind, but only asked that he hold her, just once. Judging by his puzzled look, it seems like that's too much to ask. But that's not really the case. Glenn just thought she had a different desire in mind. Like, maybe he'd punish the gossiping maids, or eventually pay her back all the money she spent. If the girl used tricks like that, she'd never become part of the Winterfell family. So she figured it was best if Marquis Winterfell just went ahead and did what she asked. Yeah, he could definitely do that, so without a second thought, he pulled her close. Maybe it's the soap or her perfume, but she smells so damn good. Suddenly, a maid's voice called from outside the door, saying the madam was wanted for a business meeting. What a relief. Nadia was starting to sweat about how they were going to stop hugging. She apologized, said she really had to go, and the Marquis let her go without a fuss. As she left, she thanked him for keeping his promise, and she thought, maybe he's starting to trust her now. Her partners were already waiting in the office, and she asked right away how things were going. According to the young guy, everything was running smoothly, thanks to the double-entry bookkeeping she taught them. Wayne had never heard of it before. They split the income and expenses into 2 parts, making it easier to track the money. Nadia learned this technique from an incredible guy who came from far away. He knew a ton of stuff. Back in her past life, when Nadia was married to Lee Ji-ho, they talked about what his country was like. In the world he lived in, women and men could get the same education, and it was totally normal. They used their knowledge to start their own businesses. They looked for something they really wanted to do. Lee Ji-ho thought Lady Nadia was smart, and he felt bad that she'd spent her whole life in her father's shadow. He wanted her to have a chance to unlock all of her talents. Thanks to him, she was able to think bigger, and that helped her when she went back in time and started making plans. But even so, Ji-ho dumped her to climb the corporate ladder. By the way, Mr. Wayne advised the lady to be careful with Shylock. He's super cunning and greedy, so he won't give up easily, not by a long shot. The Krita Trading Company reps don't have to sweat it. They definitely know who Nadia's old man can't stand. The Duke hates one thing above all else: tax dodgers. Before long, Duke Balazit ordered an immediate tax audit on all the merchants up north. When he let his daughter use her dowry for her harebrained scheme, he never imagined she'd actually make it work. The boss is sure something's fishy, and the last thing he wants to find out is that Nadia went behind his back. But there's no way she could have known what he didn't. She just got lucky with this plan. Either way, nothing lasts forever. Give it time and the coffers will be empty again. There's nothing left to fix up on the estate, all thanks to her new business. Gordon's so grateful to the Marchioness. She not only paid off the debt, but fixed the renovation problem. The mansion's never looked better. Things are finally good. Time to catch our breath. The heroine had a rough patch for a while, but after doing what she had to do, she felt a whole lot better. Speaking of which, Nadia has a special bonus lined up for the butler. He put in a ton of work building up the estate from scratch. Gordon thought it was a little too much, so he asked her to save it for later. When you think about it, they've only made it this far because of the servants' hard work, and that deserves to be rewarded properly. Nadia figures he was probably embarrassed in front of his staff because of the salary issues, so now he can finally pay them everything he owes. The yearly monster wave, food shortages, and problems at the mansion because of mounting debts. Gordon can't believe it all got resolved so easily. He thinks the lady is a real miracle, sent to them by their family ancestors. He'll respect and take care of her for the rest of his life. Nadia never imagined he'd be so loyal. Thanks to the successful business, the servants have started to trust her. She needs to keep pushing forward if she wants her plan to work. Suddenly, a messenger appeared outside. A red flag means it's urgent. Urgent message or not, Fabian's suspiciously calm, like he already knows what's up. According to him, a red flag at this hour probably means Count Alteo's crossed the border. Alteo County's south of Winterfell. They're not part of the Northern League or Dad's alliance. They're a third power. Neighboring countries might have beef, but judging by those two's reactions, they're definitely hiding something. Suddenly, Nadia had a realization. When they say at this hour, they mean they do this every year. Winterfell's broke and has no resources, and now the neighbors are acting up and not responding. The Marchioness heard the news. Rumors are the neighbors are causing trouble on their land. Stuff like this happens, so the Marquis of Winterfell calmed her down. He'll be back soon. The boss is heading to the battlefield, so Nadia can't help but worry. It'd be weird if she wasn't worried with her husband going to war. That's a totally normal reaction. Seeing how stressed out she was, Fabian decided to try and calm her down. He said the Winterfell army is the strongest in the north, heck, even in the whole kingdom. And the boss is the toughest warrior in the entire empire. Those Alteo scrubs don't stand a chance. That cheered Nadia up a bit. Seeing how confident the boss is, she doesn't need to sweat it. So, she figured she'd better start thinking about which territories to snatch from the enemy. But if they always win, it begs the question, where's the land? Winterfell doesn't own anything besides the northern territories. Wars with Alteo happen all the time, as Sir Fabian confirmed. Since they've had plenty of chances to grab land, Nadia decided to find out why they haven't. Finally breaking his silence, Marquis Winterfell said it all came down to the fortress. They win on the battlefield, but the second the enemy's threatened, they scurry back to Belong Fortress. Baelong Fortress is called a heavenly gift. Once they're holed up in there, there's nothing you can do. They just won't come out. According to the guard, most of Alteo's soldiers are just hired guns, and they're holding Winterfell's citizens hostage. Remembering the fortress is near an ore source, Nadia realized they could capture it using that method. What's more, they'll find the dragon Rio not far from there. In the past, the dragon's appearance was a disaster, but this time it's different. There's a whole stash of treasure there, and the owner's gone. Nadia can't just sit on her hands. He practically asked for it. Everything's finally ready. It's time to head out. Marquis Winterfell said he'd be back soon. He says it like he's going to a party, not to war. Glenn's just a regular guy. The girl told him to be careful one last time and hurry back home. The knight pointed out that their relationship wasn't all that bad. The Marquis claimed he was just imagining things, but anyone would say the same. The only advice the knight could give was not to trust her. He gets it. A pretty, delicate girl is saying sweet things. It'd be weird if the Marquis didn't start feeling something for her. But the knight told him not to trust her, and not to give her his heart, assuring him that Glenn already knew why. Of course, the master knows, but she paid off their debts, so he can't be rude to her. If he doesn't actually trust her, then the knight has nothing to worry about. A few days later, a meeting took place at the Winterfell camp in the evening. Everything's going as planned. The enemies are holed up in the fortress, giving them a chance to pull back the army. But if the Marquis isn't up for it, the knight suggested just taking the fortress. Glenn wants that too, but he can't be that reckless, risking his soldiers' lives in a battle. There are some weird sounds coming from outside, so the knight decided to go check it out. Glenn stopped him, though. He wanted to get some air himself, so he told the knight to get some rest. The moment the Marquis pulled back the curtain, he came face to face with a guy in a black cloak. Lady Nadia showed up at Winterfell camp late that night. Seeing her, Glenn didn't understand why she was there. It had been so long. Truth is, Nadia just came because she missed him like crazy. Seeing her husband alive and well, she knew he was okay. Such a relief. A few days ago, she wished him luck on his mission. The war is going well, and Glenn was already thinking about heading home. No way he could even guess what's going on in her head. Mr. Winterfell's having a hard time believing she came all this way, just 'cause she's worried about him. Figuring that couldn't be the reason, he invited his wife inside first. Once they were in, the Marquis sat her down at the table, wanting to talk. When she suddenly said she'd written a military request, Glenn couldn't believe what he was hearing. Turns out Nadia's found a way to take Belong Fortress, but it looks like they don't believe her. Just like the Marquis thought, she didn't come here because she was worried about him. It ticks him off that he even considered it. He decided to remind her what a military request means during wartime. The penalty for a false report is death. Nadia knows that. She told the truth, so she has nothing to fear. Seeing her confidence, the man thinks this plan might actually win them the war. So, Lord Giscard, brimming with confidence, suggested we see just how good her plan really is. With that, Nadia started laying it out. Salt the mountain to the west and dig a cave to the north. The mountain's gonna be a trap, so don't build it all the way. The cave's the key. We gotta pack it with a ton of powder and oil underground and light it all up. When that cave collapses, the fortress goes with it, and Winterfell's army can take out the enemy in one shot. They never even considered it, but there's a lot of granite around here, they've already checked the area. As for that, Nadia said her father had intel on Balong Fortress's weak spot. Balong Fortress has been a major pain for Glenn's ancestors. If we back down, it'll come back to bite us. Nadia claimed she could vouch for her father's research, stuff he collected in case anyone became his enemy. But Lord Giscard pointed out that she is from the Balazet family. Right then, Marquis Winterfell figured the Balong Fortress problem was bugging the Lord just as much as it was bugging him. He told the Lord to send some guys up north, cause it wouldn't be that hard to check if there really was a lot of soft ground up there. If the girl's willing to bet her life on it, Glenn doesn't think she's playing us. Nadia knew it. Only her husband trusts her, that's right, she'll help him out. Then Glenn told her to take care of herself and consider that an order. Soon enough, everything went down exactly like the lady said. The fortress is collapsing. Time to start the assault. The noble was scared out of his mind, trapped like a rat, but he said he was surrendering. Marquis Winterfell's probably all worked up about aristocratic pride. Even if the guy's a prisoner, he's still a noble. Still, the Marquis ain't trying to hear anything about no aristocratic rules. Before you knew it, a year and a half hadn't even passed, and Army Winterfell was back from the Kalia expedition. Soldiers were throwing their lives away for the kingdom, and this noble's starting another war, calling it pride. The Lord was desperately trying to prove the Marquis couldn't kill a noble until he saw the girl. Count Alteo's right. Even though Glenn won the war, Nadia's sure he can't just take the Count's life. After losing and getting captured, Count Alteo, well, he couldn't face the music if you catch my drift. According to the Marchioness, it's the only way to maintain a noble's, reputation. At this rate, the Count really could kick the bucket. He promised to hand over all his wealth if they let him live. We have a non-aggression pact for situations like this. If the Count signs it, his life will be spared. First, the Alteo territory won't attack Winterfell lands for 30 years. Second, the Alteo territory, as the losing side, must pay 100,000 gold. Third, the Alteo territory will transfer all rights to the Rhinelands, including Balong Fortress. Count Alteo's not even allowed to argue the terms, he just needs to sign ASAP. After crushing it in the Cold War, it's time for our brave soldiers to finally kick back. Feels good, man. We finally wrapped up that never-ending turf war. Nobody ever thought there'd be a loophole hidden up in the mountains. Lord Giscard's convinced the person who came up with the contract idea was Milady. Time to raise a glass to her. First the thorny vines, now the war. Nadia helped us with everything. At first, Glenn thought she was only getting close to him because she was sent to spy. Nadia's nowhere to be seen at the celebration. Fabian said she's super tired and wants to chill in her room. All this time, Milady's been trying to figure out how to subtly tip him off about the dragon's location. You could say she stumbled upon it completely by accident while she was passing by, or just say some dream fairy told her all about it. Even though she said she was resting, there was a knock, and the Marquis walked right in. Nadia thought he'd be partying with everyone, so she was clueless why he was there. They won because of her, so Glenn thinks she should greet the troops. Since the Marquis thinks he's right, Lord Winterfell agreed to go with her. He offered himself, so she knew she was in for it. On the way, the Marquis admitted Fabian told him Nadia was super tired and wanted to rest. She couldn't sleep, thinking about the new training methods. Of course, she had to figure out how to use them, especially the mine. Iron ore production is going up. Speaking of which, Nadia almost ate it right there if the Marquise hadn't grabbed her waist. Looks like she got a little too comfortable, couldn't stop worrying about her husband and if he was safe. More importantly, the lady's trying to figure out why he's suddenly so close. Just like that, he lets her go and tells her to watch herself. First, Glenn offers to walk her home, and now this. The vibe's totally different. By the time Nadia finally showed up to the celebration, the knights were already hammered and out of it. Guess they were just extra hyped that the war was over. Glenn asked her to cut them some slack. Of all of them, only Lord Giscard had the guts to say something to the new lady. He dropped to his knees before her grace and apologized for ever doubting her. Nadia wasn't expecting that and told the Earl to stand up. She gets why he didn't trust her, being from the Balazet family and all. But now she's the Marquis's wife, and her reputation is his reputation. The Earl acting otherwise just makes the boss look bad. Glenn said the Lord acted that way out of deep loyalty to our family, and he'll be more careful from now on. Not wanting to throw her weight around just to boss people, Nadia decided to dish out a fitting punishment herself. The Earl understands he was out of line with the lady, and he'll gladly accept whatever punishment is coming his way. He'd have a hard time taking the punishment alone, but if we all share it, the burden won't be so heavy. What Nadia meant was, everyone's getting punished, no exceptions. Bottoms up, everyone takes a shot. The girl's glad everyone's happy and asks the servant to bring something over. This all seems like a lot because Nadia's sure a penalty should look like this. Everyone took it as a joke, but it's not like that at all. The lady is calling out the rudeness, bringing it to the soldiers' attention. What's more, she's making everyone remember she's above them. Maybe some big shot just rolled into the north. The soldiers lined up for their penalty shot from the lady. Don't worry, there's enough for everyone. That night, Nadia snuck into the archives and slipped the right documents into the pile. Everyone in that family, even their ancestors, should be kissing Marquis Winterfell's boots. Then, 4 days later at Baelong Fortress, she conveniently stumbled across documents mentioning the dragon, Rio. The lords were freaking out they'd just gotten this land and now this mess. Marquis Winterfell did say things went suspiciously smoothly, and they can't ditch the land because of the dragon. Suddenly, Nadia notices they have nothing to worry about. It says the dragon's master died a long time ago. Apparently, Count Alteo just got the report and hasn't started digging yet, so all the rare artifacts are theirs now. Things are going too well. It feels unreal. Glenn's never been this lucky. He can't believe his good fortune, but of course it's all thanks to Nadia. Suddenly, the Marquis wants to know how she read that document. The lords saw it too. But they decided to skip it because they couldn't decipher Count Alteo's chicken scratch. Even though Nadia wrote with her left hand, it was still more legible. That's why nobody said a word about it for 4 days. Saying her father had similar handwriting, the girl suggested sending out a search party ASAP. Hearing that, Glenn got a little bummed. He realized his wife had so many talents. Nevertheless, he ordered Aeneas to send a team to search for the dragon right away. Before long, they finally arrived at the new territory won in the war. Now this fertile land belongs to the Winterfell family. But according to Aeneas, there aren't enough farmers. Most of the fields are just sitting idle. Turns out, Count Alteo was squeezing the farmers dry with high taxes for renting the land. People started starving in the spring when food was scarce. Eventually, they just bailed on the county. Once the dry season hits, the Marquis can build up his forces and get ready for the Civil War. Lord Giscard suggested bringing back the farmers who ran away from the county. If the Marquis gives the order, he'll lead the army and turn this whole area upside down. But Nadia figures those farmers have built their own village and are living their own lives. Forcing them back would be a bad look. She's convinced it's better to use drifters. That way they can solve the labor shortage. It's not a bad idea, but the Marquis isn't sure they'd want to settle down here. Even if he cuts taxes, they won't trust him that easily. From their point of view, Alteo is already a sweet deal. The truth only comes out after time has passed. Since Nadia's thinking again, Glenn figures she must have an idea. It's surprising he's even asking her opinion. She didn't even realize it was that obvious on her face. If Lord Winterfell lends her his sword, she thinks she can handle this. The head sword, passed down in the Winterfell family for generations, is a family treasure. When Glenn drew the sword, the girl was so happy, but then he gave it to Fabian. The sword's just way too heavy, so it'll be hard for her to carry. Fabian will be her arms and legs. Nadia suddenly declared she wasn't that weak, but then she felt lighter to the Marquis than he thought. Just like she suspected, something's changed about Glenn. Upon meeting his buddy, the Lord suddenly started talking about that story. The whole village is buzzing about it, and the kid still doesn't know. This is the story about Peter and the 10 gold bars, the one that's all over the empire. Once upon a time, a new owner appeared in Alteo County, and the new head offered people 10 gold bars in exchange for pulling out a sword. They all wanted the gold, but no one could pull the chief's sword. Then one day this brave kid shows up, decides to give pulling the chief's sword a shot. Finally, someone yanked that sword out, and that's when he arrived. That guy forced the one who pulled the chief's sword to kneel before him. Peter, the only one who believed the chief's promise, got a sweet reward and lived happily ever after. The new chief was different from Count Alteo. The story spread to other villages, and Baelong Fortress filled up with peasants. Time to drink up. The new chief promised to lower taxes, so people are gonna live large this year. Nadia's been swamped with work since dawn. The head peasant wants her back, and the broken weapons need fixing too. Nadia's so weird, so full of energy, like she's got a serious bone to pick with her past life. Marcus Winterfell can't figure out why she's busting her butt dealing with Winterfell's problems. She claims it's all because she's head over heels for him, but she couldn't care less about the guy. We're starting the day with some awesome news. They finally found the blueprints for Belong Fortress. The walls are seriously tough, and the inside is like a freaking maze. According to Glenn, the previous owner was super cautious. Must have been how he kept out intruders. They call Belong Fortress the Iron Fortress. It's got tons of hidden spots inside. Maybe Count Alteo's hidden treasure is stashed in one of them, so they gotta check everything out. Back in the day, though, Alteo and the dwarves were selling top-notch steel stuff. They had materials, weapons, even everyday items that would really help Winterfell get ahead right now. Looks like they found all the secret rooms pretty quick, but no sign of the dwarves anywhere. Suddenly, Glenn stopped dead in front of a wall. Something looked seriously off to him. The path ahead's blocked, but there's a crack, and the wall's kinda beat up. The Marquise's hunch paid off. As soon as he touched the wall, a secret room opened up. Nadia's staring, but she can't see anything different. She has no idea how he knew. Plus, this place isn't on any map, so it's all kinda sus and there's bloodstains everywhere. Now the big question is, why was Count Alteo hiding a forge in a place like this? Inside, there's a crazy amount of different handmade swords. Hard to believe a human made all this. That knife could be poisoned, so Glenn told her not to touch anything. Weird, but the boss doesn't remember Alteo's weapons being this high quality. This dagger's way stronger and lighter than our stuff. Suddenly, Fabian heard some strange sounds. They're coming from behind that door. Sounds like people barely alive. A forge hidden underground, top-tier weapons, and something else behind this door. Fearless Glenn decided to check it out and told Fabian to stick close to the lady. The knight was scared stiff, thinking there might still be people in there, or worse, ghosts. The brave head of Winterfell, without a flicker of fear, kicked the door open, not caring what was on the other side. Just as he figured, it was a dungeon for prisoners, and he could hear them begging for help. The head couldn't believe his eyes when he saw they were dwarves. Nadia froze, horrified by what was happening here, all of them chained up in a place like this. Seeing people, the dwarf desperately fell to his knees and pleaded for mercy, saying they'd made a terrible mistake last time. The Marquis of Winterfell didn't get what was going on. First, he wanted to know why they were here. Realizing they weren't sent by Count Alteo, the dwarf explained they just came to see the human world. So it turns out Count Alteo was exploiting people too. The Marquis decided to handle this himself. He immediately drew his sword and headed towards the dwarves. You could cut the tension with a knife. Nadia, terrified, rushed to stop him, holding the Marquise back with all her strength. She's convinced they shouldn't be killed. They're just victims that Count Alteo took advantage of. But Glenn wasn't even thinking about killing them. He was totally surprised she'd even think that. Actually, he just wanted to smash the chains and free the prisoners from the previous count's reign. His name is Glenn. He's the new head of the county, and he asked the dwarves to tell him what Count Alteo did to them. The freed dwarf looked at him with eyes full of hope and fear. They honestly never expected things to turn out like this. They wanted to see the world, to try creating new things in the big world, using resources and their skills. Thinking about that, they went outside, but nobody was happy to see them. When they reached the last house, disappointment set in, and they considered just heading to another village. Plus, they had a sick kid with them, but all they were doing was running from people. Nobody helped them, and there wasn't even a sign the rain would let up. They knew if things kept going this way, it wouldn't just be the kid in danger, but everyone else too. All they wanted was a place to get out of the rain. That's when Mr. Miar decided to head to the fortress, hoping their leader lived there and would help them out. The palace was actually pretty close, so another dwarf decided to go with him. Standing before His Majesty, the dwarves bowed low and begged him to help them before the kid's fever got any worse. But the cruel Count Alteo considered their pathetic request an abomination. He was furious these beggars had been let in. He ordered the hands of the one who let the dwarves in to be cut off, and then to be kicked out along with that thing. Cornered, the dwarf begged them not to kick them out, promising to do anything if their leader would just hear them out. When he pulled out a special item, the guard shoved him aside, and the dwarf dropped it. Count Alteo figured the beggars had just stolen the precious thing. It was super sus that they had something so rare on them, so he accused the dwarves of petty theft, but he didn't know the whole story yet. That's when the boss found out they actually made the cup themselves. Turns out they had skills he could use. That's how the dwarves got into the fortress. Alteo said they could stay as long as they did everything he told them to. He locked them in the basement to keep them safe, and they didn't mind, since they wanted to stick around until the kid got better anyway. Until one day the dwarves wanted to leave, now that the kid was all healed up. Count Alteo, who took them in and gave them shelter, thought they were being ungrateful and decided that was total BS. As the territory's leader, he had a duty to protect the locals, and he warned that if the dwarves invaded the village, all hell would break loose. While staying here, they learned how to craft weapons. The Earl didn't know what they might do with that knowledge, so he decided to take care of the situation. So, he never planned to let them go from the start. He didn't give them food or time to rest the entire time. That's why a furious Dihi lashed out at the Earl with accusations, threatening him with his hammer. The Earl's guard immediately stopped him, and the dwarf collapsed to the ground. Then, Earl Alteo declared that he couldn't release those who tried to harm even their benefactor. After that, the new leader found them locked up and starving to death. Marquis Winterfell figured it would have been better if they'd found them sooner. He promised to make up for all the suffering they'd endured and provide them with treatment until they recovered. The dwarf was so scared before that he refused the money, but agreed to accept treatment, wanting to return to where they came from. People who don't belong in this world, who were never accepted, and whose faith was betrayed, Nadia totally gets how they feel. She'd hate for them to go back empty-handed. They came out to see the world but haven't seen anything yet. This world's so huge. The girl offered the dwarves to come with them. She'll show them the scale of this world in Winterfell. They'll experience it together. But the dwarves' worries are all about fear, that it'll be the same there, that they won't be welcome again, and they'll be forced to work. Nadia guaranteed that no one would kidnap and lock them up again. She promised them a vacation and good pay. Of course, she's not forcing them, so they can refuse, but she'd be happy to have such talented craftsmen living with them. The old Nadia would have wanted someone to comfort her like that too, in a house where she was needed by no one. Honestly, Glenn feels the same way. He understands them. They're scared something like that could happen again. But they don't have to worry now. He, as the new leader, guaranteed their freedom and safety. Looking at the confused dwarves, it seems like everyone's thinking the same thing. That's a smart move. The Marquise wants them healed up first, then they can figure out where the dwarves are gonna live. Before long, Fabian excitedly announced that they'd finished checking out the iron gear. Just like the lady said, they're incredible. Fabian couldn't even resist trying some on himself. Truth be told, these aren't Nadia's ideas originally, but she said she's been dying to test this out, and now they've found these dwarf masters. This iron armor is way tougher than regular stuff, but we'll see exactly how much later, based on what happens to someone. The truth is, the only reason she knows all this is because she's already lived through it. Glenn says if they can get this armor out to everyone else, their army's defense will be 100 times stronger. Of course, that's exactly what Nadia wanted to do. That's why she rushed over here. She's the one whose thoughts Marquis Winterfell can't read, no matter what. Now Nadia finally breathed a sigh of relief. Everything's ready to go. We're talking dragon loot, thorny vine profits, plus territories and food from the Rhine region, and an army fully kitted out with iron armor and weapons. Soon this place will rival the South, and in the coming North-South war, Winterfell will crush Balazite. Those two are about to have a really, really bad time. Fabian's here, just arrived with the stuff the lady wanted. He found the most famous craftsman in the Rhine, which was no easy feat. Nadia needs it for a gift. It's the first time she's ever made a gift for someone. In her past life, she didn't have a single person she cared for, and she never received gifts from anyone either. Come to think of it, there was that one thing he gave her, the day Korean was, shall we say, less than thrilled with her. All because the dress Nadia wore to the ball got more attention than what she was wearing. Karen practically threw the dress at her like scraps, so Nadia figured if she just stayed quiet, she'd chill out. Karen always took her anger out on her, and it usually escalated to getting physical, so she was expecting it. But then, the only one who ever stopped her stepsister was Lord Lee Ji-ho. Still, Karen told him to butt out of their family drama and told him to move along. Looking at the whole situation, Ji-ho thought that maybe he could find a reason to be interested in Milady himself. Then he said he suddenly had urgent need of Lady Nadia. They left together, leaving Karen alone with her jealousy and rage. Lord Ji-ho had been thinking about it for a while. He thought Nadia looked really good in red. Out of the blue, he gave her a new dress and asked her to dinner. Even though they were married, they barely spoke even when they bumped into each other. This place was a total hotspot for couples. Nadia was always stuck at home, so she never had a chance to come here. Figuring he was running his mouth too much, Ji-ho suggested she try it before it got cold. Seriously, every show says the most important thing on a first date is the food. Plus, he really dug how Nadia could put away a meal. Karain always said her fiancé, Lee Jiho, probably didn't even know how to use utensils. She figured she and Nadia were on the same page, since it was the first time she'd seen someone handle a knife so clumsily. Her question might have seemed rude, but Nadia had to ask if he really didn't know how to use silverware. She didn't want to bum him out, but he was from another world, so she thought it was possible. Truth was, nobody at his place ever watched him, so Jiho just ate however he wanted. But apparently, when other people see him eat, they make fun of Nadia too. So, if the young lord was cool with it, she wanted to teach him. Turns out, Jiho had a blast thanks to her. This place really is as awesome as they say. He was pretty surprised about something earlier, so he's gotta ask, has Milady ever faced any prejudice? He's wondering if there's discrimination even among the nobles. He figured only outsiders like him got treated differently in this world. Even with his crazy skills, they ignore him because he's a newcomer. They even forced him into marriage. He's totally alone here. Nadia was born here, and even if she's unloved, everyone knows whose blood she carries. Jiho must be going through it, and Nadia gets it because she's hurting just as bad. You can learn a lot from stargazing, like weather, terrain, stuff they teach back home. The Lord wants Milady to wear the outfit he gave her to the next meeting. Nadia's getting caught up in pointless memories. Whatever happened, he screwed her over too in the end. She trusted him with everything, and he still stabbed her in the back like that. Word got back to Duke Balazit that Marquis Winterfell had taken Baelong Fortress. When he found out Winterfell tunneled under the fortress and blew it sky high, the Duke went absolutely ballistic. No way, Winterfell knew exactly where the weak spots were to bring down the walls. There's just no way the Marquis could have known that kind of classified info. Ever since Nadia married the Marquis, Winterfell's been on a non-stop winning streak. Baelong Fortress sits next to the most fertile land in Rain, a place that can hold its own against the south. Alteo left it alone because they were constantly at war with Winterfell. Still no word from Nadia, but at least Lord Jiho crushed it in the Gadabir campaign. He's all anyone's talking about in the capital right now, the Dragon Slayer. Balazit's a real stand-up guy, glad someone's doing their job around here. But I got a bad feeling. Gotta make sure my daughter's okay, haven't seen her in ages. This trip back's going way faster than when we came. There it is, Winterfell's outskirts. Topu village is right on the edge of Winterfell. It's just a small settlement where the poor folks live. They're stoked to see the Lord back. These poor villagers have never seen so much fancy fruit. The Marchioness of Winterfell couldn't stay cooped up in the carriage meeting these people. She wanted to see them face to face. She grabbed a juicy, perfect apple and gave it to this kid who was practically drooling, staring at him. They only get a few today, but soon they'll be eating like kings. We'll hang back in this village for a bit, get some rest. Just a few months ago, they were so hungry you rarely saw them smile. But things turned around fast. People weren't starving anymore, and it made them happy. Finally, Nadia found Glenn. Today's the day they head back to the mansion. Time flies, man, it's hard to keep up, but every second feels so important. When the Marquis saw her, he stared so hard she thought she had something on her face. Nadia just wanted to tell him something before they left. Right then, all Glenn could think about was why he hadn't noticed before how pretty she was. She doesn't look anything like her old man. Of course, Glenn always thought she was all right. Lost in his own head like that, Nadia knew right away he wasn't listening. She was talking about the Winterfell homecoming ceremony and where he'd be in the procession. The Marquis had totally spaced on it. She wanted to let you know ahead of time. She'd rather not be seen, so she's staying in the carriage. That surprised Glenn, seeing as her contribution is the whole reason we won this war. That's exactly her point, actually. If rumors spread that Nadia rode back with him on the same horse, her father will get suspicious. There'll come a day when they can use the fact that her father trusts her, so it's best to keep that option open. It's true that Marquis Winterfell and Duke Balazit are political rivals, but he's still Nadia's family. Glenn would never ask her to stab a family member in the back. There's no way he'd drag her into his issues with the dukedom. A major showdown between the North and South is coming soon. If Nadia ever had to choose between the two of them, she'd definitely pick Glenn. Still, he's sure it would leave a lasting mark. In other words, he won't involve her in their war. She appreciates him saying that, but she doesn't mind helping. She likes the Marquis, and she wants to help someone she cares about. The Marquis was totally flustered by what he heard. He never expected girls from the South to confess their feelings so easily. Still, it's time to hit the road, so he told her to hop in the carriage. Milady noticed how embarrassed he was. The more she looks at him, the cuter he gets. The fact that the butler hadn't moved on from his grief really bummed out Lady Grace Ground. Unfortunately, he can't just casually hand over the lady's seal like that. Just a couple of months ago, Lady Grace was running the mansion, but now Gordon doesn't trust her. He appreciates her help, but that was then. Now there's a new lady in Winterfell Mansion. You can't hide rumors. The servants are whispering everywhere that the Marchioness hasn't been seen for days. So Grace knows who needs to step up and run the family affairs when the lady of the house is being irresponsible and ditching her post. The fact that the lady vanished right after Glenn left looks super sus. Grace is sure something bad went down at Winterfell. She thinks Gordon's already forgotten that Nadia's from the Balazit family. The butler gets her worry. He didn't want to say it, but the missus is with the master right now. Even so, Lady Grace is sure that doesn't make her any less suspicious. Who knows what she's got up her sleeve? Anyway, Gordon declared that as far as the estate goes, the missus will handle things personally. Grace was totally ticked that Glenn hasn't sent her back yet. She's obviously getting in his way. Gordon doesn't know about that, but they'll be back soon, so he suggested she ask them herself. As soon as the Marquis got back, he was showered with praise and congratulations for his big win. It's a huge relief for everyone that he's finally home. Aunt Grace came out to greet him, saying she's sure it's a great accomplishment. She noticed the Marchioness came back with him too, and was happy to see she's all right. My aunt was totally floored when she heard the girl ditch the mansion and went to war. The only reason she'd go to a place that dangerous is if she missed the Marquis that bad. Like Nadia, she just couldn't stand it. But Lady Grace was saying the girl should have known showing up on the battlefield would just get in his way. Seeing how loyal Giscard is, my aunt figured he'd be on her side, that he had some gripes bottled up. She was sure he'd say the right thing, but Giscard just told her to watch her mouth. When he said there were eyes everywhere and the Marchioness deserved respect, Grace's face twisted up like a pretzel. Giscard calmed her down, saying Nadia was responsible on the battlefield, and she put herself in harm's way because she was worried. The other knights jumped to defend the Marchioness too, saying her and the boss were practically newlyweds. At that point, Grace thought they'd all lost their minds. Just a little while ago, everyone was ignoring the Marchioness, thinking she was a spy. But now even Glenn himself was choosing his new wife, the Lady of Winterfell, over their family ties. They were beat after that trip, so he said he and his wife would head out first. Glenn's protecting Balazit's daughter, and Grace is getting called out? Something's fishy. Something's definitely not right. If things keep going this way, she'll have all the power before we know it. And once she's in charge and pops out an heir, Lady Ground is going to be in a seriously weak position. She can't let that happen. Nadia was so drained. Playing the love-struck fool is way harder than winning a war. Looks like Glenn's warming up to her. Plus, the Winterfell people are backing her so fast. Out of nowhere, the maid asked if she wanted a bath. Nadia told her to come in. As soon as the maid stepped into her room, Nadia offered her some jewelry. Nadia brought these thinking of Rhys, and asked her to pass some on to Yuri and Aiden too. She said they aren't anything special, just some glass trinkets. When Nadia first arrived in Winterfell, Risa really helped her out, so she wanted to pay her back. Going back in time, the heroine realized it's way better to spend her time taking care of her people and her surroundings. The maids have never met a lady like her before. She's so kind and caring. According to the butler, she's crushing her duties. Still, Risa's worried about the master, since he doesn't seem interested in the lady at all. They're still using separate rooms, and the lady, missing him, headed to Belong Fortress. Nadia was wondering why the bath took longer to prepare today. Turns out the maids put in extra effort since she'd been gone for so long. Suddenly, the door swung open and she thought they were coming to attend to her. But standing before her was the Marquis of Winterfell, practically shirtless. Nadia was speechless seeing him like that. She was totally caught off guard. Truth be told, he doesn't know how this happened either. They just told him to use this bath. Looks like the girl knows what's up. She thought the maid was just doing a good job. Seems like the servants were playing a prank on them, so the Marchioness suggested he go wait for her in the room. The Lord can't believe he seemed so cold that they had to resort to this kind of thing. Thinking about it, something suddenly made the Marquis strip down and get in the bath next to his wife. He's just positive that if he walks out now, the rumors will start that he rejected her again. Since things have gone this far, Nadia let him stay and offered to help each other wash, like a real married couple. As soon as Glenn pictured that, he got a little flustered, but that doesn't mean he's against it. Then the girl's eyes landed on a scar on his chest. She asked when he got it. The Lord immediately pushed her hand away. Nadia realized she was too close. She's just worried. Looks like he was really hurting. With everything going on, the Marquis is already regretting not stepping in. He just can't take his eyes off that woman. Then Milady offered to talk. So much has happened since then. Come to think of it, Glenn never formally thanked his wife. Thanks to Nadia, their lands are way richer. Winterfell was always strapped for resources, but now they've got everything, plus an army. The Marquis is genuinely grateful to her. Those words made the girl's heart race. It's the first time someone's acknowledged her. She felt so happy inside. Actually, she's also grateful to Glenn for marrying her. Yesterday ended peacefully. Finally, the next day has arrived. Word is they had a fantastic time last night. They were in the bathroom till dawn. After breakfast, Lord Winterfell decided to head out. It was territory inspection day. Out of nowhere, Risa suggested he take the missus along for the territory check. They haven't been out there in ages. Plus, a huge market just opened up today, tons to see. Nadia appreciated the maid's concern, but said she was tied up with stuff she needed to handle. But Lord Winterfell was so stoked about the idea, he straight up asked Milady to come along. The town was really buzzing that day. A massive market had sprung up. Nadia had heard there were a lot of people, but she didn't realize it was this packed. Glenn said the Rhine regions had joined Winterfell, so it must be some kind of celebration. The locals recognized the lady under the black hood, but figured she'd never wear such cheap duds. Lost in the crowd, the only one who went unnoticed was a creepy dude with a seriously unsettling vibe. With this many people here today, things could get dicey. Looks like even the guards are lost in the crowd. Just as the Marquis decided to head back, they saw some lunatic charging straight at them. Spotting the Balazit scum, he blamed her for everything that was happening. Nadia froze, terrified, but snapped out of it when the Marquis was already right in front of her. In one swift move, he grabbed the jerk mid-sprint and slammed his head into the ground. The enraged guy reminded him that she's the daughter of Balazit, the North's worst enemy, begging the Marquise not to be fooled. Her damn family is responsible for this guy's brother being dead. The Balazits can't even fight straight, and they send their soldiers to the front lines? Those words hit Nadia like a tidal wave. Suddenly, a scream cut through the air, and a distraught woman ran out of the crowd, throwing her hands up. She started begging the Marquis for mercy, swearing that her son made a terrible mistake. He was always a sickly kid, stuck at home. Ever since his only brother died, he just hasn't been the same. Her firstborn, Henry Clark, died fighting in the Callia expedition. She knows there's a price to pay for disrespecting the lady's honor. Lord Winterfell let the kid go right away. He remembers Henry Clark. Henry was the one who fought the bravest at the front lines for Winterfell. He died a hero. He had a good death. Hearing the dead knight's family weeping, Nadia just said she was fine and told them not to make a big deal out of it. Since his wife said everything was cool, Lord Glenn decided to let them off the hook. They must be going through hell. He gets where they're coming from. For a minute there, Nadia forgot how much these people hate Balazit. And you can't blame them, seeing as her dad screwed up so much. Fixing a couple of their problems isn't gonna cut it. It's late, but the Marchioness decided to stay and work some more, sending the servants away. The staff is really worried, but she promised she wouldn't stay up too late. The kid's honestly grateful that she's working so hard for the people, but she's pushing herself too hard. She's the type who needs a project, something to really sink her teeth into. The next morning for Marchioness Winterfell started on the training grounds. The North took a huge hit because Balazit was putting Winterfell's people on the front lines during the expedition. But the question is it all Duke Balazit, his parents' enemy, or is Nadia, his daughter, involved too? But her father did all the bad stuff, not her. Nadia's helping them out. Winterfell wouldn't be doing so well without her help. Still, the fact that she's a member of the Balazit family doesn't just go away. She must have been pretty happy when he, hurt Glenn's parents and did a number on innocent people. The knights were just showing up for practice. Their captain was early today. The Marquis has been glued to the missus lately. Haven't seen him around. They noticed his face is actually looking better. Someone joked it's 'cause they're newlyweds, but then saw the Marquis's face and shut right up. Not seeing the missus around, the guys figured the Marquis still hasn't warmed up to her. They said no matter how hot the passion is, feelings always fade eventually. Obviously, no one will ever love him like she does. Her feelings are the real deal. A total blessing. Glenn knows all this himself. That girl's way too good for him. According to one of the knights, she's smart, beautiful, and most importantly, genuinely loves her husband. But if Glenn falls for her, he doesn't know what'll happen with his mother and his bedridden father. He's not gonna blame her for her father's crimes, but loving the daughter of the guy who offed his mom? That's a whole other can of worms. Glenn can't let himself feel this way. He just can't. Just then, Fabian ran up and said the lady invites you to lunch if you're free, sir. Despite the messed up stuff swirling in his head, the Marquis agreed to have lunch with his wife. Nadia can tell he's still thinking about it. What happened back then? It's not something you just forget. She gets why the people don't trust her. She knows why her dad has such a bad rep. She just wanted to talk it out, but Glenn shut her down, told her not to bring it up. As much as he wants to, they can't just ignore this. She really wants to clear the air. She reminded him they're married and said if something's up, they should talk about it. The Marquise gotta remember her saying she'd choose him over her own father. Nadia barely got a chance to explain why before Glenn instantly told her to stop right there. Realizing he'd scared her, he immediately apologized, saying he didn't mean to snap. Lady Balazit understands he's troubled. She's willing to wait until he's ready to talk. It's not about Nadia. It's just that she's the daughter of the guy who offed Marquis Winterfell's mom. But even knowing that, he's still into her, and he can only blame himself. After the meeting, Milady was heading back to her room when Fabian stopped her. The kid noticed the master upset her. The Marquis has been training all day, hasn't even been to his study. He decided to find out if the lady knew about the tragedy that befell his parents. He's talking about that flash flood from the mountain range. The Marchioness, Glenn's mom, died, and his dad was badly hurt. And it looks like Duke Balazit was responsible for the whole damn thing. Nadia knows it herself. Her father clearly hated the Marquis, and he wasn't even trying to hide it. The truth is, the boss is really torn up because he fell for the daughter of the guy who screwed over his parents. What happened back in the village just made it worse. Fabian's trying to say Nadia's not to blame for any of this. There's nothing she could have done, so she shouldn't beat herself up about it. It's not like Lady Balazit doesn't get that the people in Winterfell see her dad as the enemy. But still, he wasn't the one who killed Glenn's mom and hurt his dad. Nadia heard him say those exact words herself in her past life. After the tragedy, her father realized the Marquis had plenty of enemies, even within his own territory. From what he said, she figured he had nothing to do with what happened. He said if he was behind it, he wouldn't have used such a low-rent trick. Nobody would have walked away alive. Besides, if the Marquis kicks the bucket, his son Glenn takes over. He's a way better dude than his old man, and the Duke can't get a read on him. Plus, Nadia heard the Marquis's body was already stiff, which wasn't from the accident. The folks down south wouldn't move without Dad's say-so, so someone else is pulling the strings. Just like Dad said, a traitor from within, someone who could get into the Marquis's bedroom, someone they trusted completely. The Marchioness needs to find the real culprit. She can't just ignore the problems within the country. Now all that's left is figuring out how, despite everything she's done for them, she still can't win over the people. Soon after, Risa brought in a freshly arrived letter from the Duchy of Balazit. Dad sent a letter to his beloved daughter. The house is so empty since she left. He asked her to write more often. Looks like a normal letter, but by asking her to write, he definitely means to pass along intel. If anyone sees it, they might think Nadia's in cahoots with her father. He must be angling for her to send him info about Winterfell's weak spot. Still, the girl's not rushing to reply. She needs time to think about her answer. She can't just let things stay like this, so she needs to come up with something fast. Rumor has it Glenn stopped seeing that girl, and Aunt Grace was super surprised when she heard. They say the master's only focused on work and keeps complaining their relationship's gone cold. That local guy attacking the mistress is a real problem. His brother's one of the master's valuable soldiers. So there's a chance to shake him up since his mom's death is involved. Doubts usually start from something small, right? According to the kid, the Marquis is going too far. First, he trusted the mistress with household affairs, and now he's running away from her. According to Lady Grace, it's time to ditch the worries. She can handle it. No matter how special that girl is, she won't last a year here, because she has no idea who in this family are Lady Grace Ground's people. She had this guy deliver the letter and told him to make damn sure they burned it as soon as they read it. Starting the day with training had become totally routine for the Marquise. But this time, Nadia decided to interrupt his workout. She's had enough of this. She's convinced they need to deal with this awkwardness between them for the sake of the future, and it bothers her that Glenn's become wary of her. Full of determination, the girl approached him and asked him to teach her too. She's talking about archery. Her eyes are full of hope and sincerity. This is just an excuse to smooth things over. However, Glenn silently turned around and started to walk away. Just like she thought, he's uncomfortable around her. Actually, he just went to get an easier bow, the kind beginners use. First, the Marquis told her to insert the arrow and draw the string. Looks like Nadia kinda got it. In that moment, the ice broke. Glenn gently put his arm around her and told her to widen her stance a little. Also, she needs to stand straight and not bend at the waist. His hand drew the bowstring back as far as it could go, and his gentle touch stirred up something weird inside Nadia. The first shot was a bust. She totally missed the target. She needs to put in the work to get used to it, and Glenn agreed to give her time to practice. Out of the blue, she started talking about what happened, worried about how he'd react. Thinking he was still hung up on it, she told him she was really okay. The mood definitely lightened up. Even though Glenn ignored what she said, he still thanked her for the day. Late that night, when nobody was around, Aiden snuck out of the estate and into the woods. She found her hiding spot in the thicket. Good thing nobody else found it. Threading the needle, the maid sat down by the tree and started sewing. A loud shout suddenly rang out behind her. She'd been spotted! Seeing Aiden, the guy was confused about what she was doing so late, but she had the same question for him. Actually, the mistress asked me to heat up the room, so I went to find some firewood. It wasn't until he saw the thread behind her that he realized she was secretly moonlighting. But personal maids aren't allowed to have side jobs. They get paid double to take care of one person. Jacob decided everyone should know what she was up to, but she promised him half of what she earned. Eventually, he brought the maid to the estate, while Lady Grace was still in the main house. Seeing her personal maid, the mistress didn't understand what all the noise was about so late at night. Jacob told her that this maid was secretly doing sewing as a way to make extra money. Instead of taking care of you, she's messing around with other stuff and she should be kicked out. Aiden, scared out of her mind, swore she hadn't betrayed her mistress. She just really needed the cash. Her salary wasn't cutting it for some pricey medicine for someone close to her, running about a gold coin a month. That cracked up Lady Grace. She realized the Marquis couldn't even take care of his own staff. She handed the girl a pouch of gold coins, should be enough to cover the medicine. The next day, around lunchtime, Lady Grace showed up at the estate, where Nadia greeted her. Nadia was in the middle of writing a letter to her father, but it wasn't urgent, so she invited Lady Grace to sit down. Auntie wasn't one to just pop in for a visit. She actually came to apologize. Honestly, she thought Nadia was a spy, but the girl had been so dedicated to taking care of Winterfell. Auntie felt terrible that she hadn't recognized Nadia's sincerity and had been so harsh. Of course, Nadia accepted her apology. She was so glad Lady Grace finally brought it up. Oh, by the way, Grace told the girl to see Glenn's father before he kicked the bucket. Back when they first got hitched, his room was always guarded. Nobody could get near. Worried she was overstaying her welcome, Mrs. Grace decided to head out. Nadia was stoked about the visit and asked Adie to show the lady out. Just don't forget where Nadia came from. She's definitely getting bad vibes from this whole situation. There's gotta be a reason for this sudden change in attitude. Suddenly, a maid came up, looking all flustered, wondering if the lady was really gonna go see the Marquis. Not right now, but she needs to go. Nadia's been meaning to, but never had the chance. Knowing it wasn't her place, Risa warned the lady to be careful. She's talking about Lady Grace. Nadia's super grateful for the maid's concern, so she promised to watch her back. Just by chance, she spotted Lady Grace on the street, and her maid was whispering something to her. Risa said Adie was Lady Grace's favorite maid, but Lady Grace isn't running the house anymore. This is kinda weird, they've been standing there forever. Soon after, the butler, Gordon, introduced the new Marchioness to their leader, Isaac Winterfell. Nadia was horrified when she looked at him. His face was so gaunt. Gordon shared the happy news that Master Glenn had gotten married. Now the head honcho can see for himself just how stunning the new Marchioness is. Isaac always said he dreamed of holding his grandkids, and a union between two beautiful people will give them lots of gorgeous kids. Glenn must come to see him all the time. Nadia always wonders how much pain he's going through. Bowing, she greeted the Honorable Sir Isaac Winterfell. Her name's Nadia, eldest daughter of Duke Balazit. She just got married and joined the Winterfell family. Now she feels awful. She tricked Glenn into marrying her. She'll do everything she can to protect the Winterfell name, and leave once she's made things better for them. This room's security is top-notch. Even the windows are locked. Everyone's on high alert. Just like I thought, someone else is behind the Marquise's situation. Someone who could get into the estate no problem. As soon as they stepped out, Lord Winterfell appeared in the hallway. Nadia explained she was running a bit late, but wanted to check on the Marquis, now that she's part of the family. Now all she really wants is for them to visit the Marquis together. Seeing him in that condition, you can tell he's really lonely. Glenn immediately agreed. With that, Milady said goodbye and wished him well visiting his father. After he checks in on his dad, Nadia's really hoping he can spare a minute for her. It was already midnight, and the Marchioness wasn't even thinking about calling it quits. Marchioness Winterfell's a total workaholic, and the Marquis just can't bring himself to admit it. Speaking of which, Risa just remembered something about the 1,000-year-old tree. There's a 1,000-year-old tree near the castle's north gate. It was there even before the castle was built. Legend says if you pray to the magic tree for love, the spirits will help you make anyone fall for you. The maids heard it only blooms once a night, and if they go out there, the scary head maid will chew them out. 80 woke up early this morning, which is weird, cause she usually loves to sleep in. She started rummaging through a drawer and said she was planning to be the first one in the dining hall. Just then, a pouch of gold coins slipped out of her hand, and they went scattering all over the room. Risa couldn't believe her eyes, seeing all those coins, and asked where they came from. But after quickly scooping up all the coins, 80 bolted out of there without a word. A little later, Risa went to the dining hall herself, but her friend wasn't there. Since Misha's in charge of food today, Risa decided to ask if 80 had eaten yet, but she said she hadn't seen her. Turns out even Hazel doesn't remember seeing the ladies' attendant today. This made Risa worry, her friend's acting shady, and suddenly she's got money from somewhere. Not a cloud in the sky today. The maids are super lucky, 'cause the view from here is amazing. They're sure the flowers will bloom on a day like this. They say the 1,000-year-old tree's flowers are gorgeous. Inside the tree is the spirit of the goddess of love's daughter, so she handles all matters of the heart. Lady Nadia definitely wants to fix things, but she doesn't really want to burden the spirit. They're finally here, and look at that 1,000-year-old tree, it's breathtaking. This massive, majestic tree is covered in pink blossoms, glowing like a magical flare. It really is gorgeous. The maids are sure if you make a wish, the Marquis will change his mind. It's truly beautiful. I wish Glenn could see this. Nadia didn't even know why she thought of him, when suddenly a maid yelled at her to close her eyes. Eyes shut tight, Risa started praying to the spirit, begging it to make the Marquis fall in love with you. The truth is, Glenn and I aren't meant to be. Someday Nadia will have to leave Winterfell. But she wished that Glenn would find his own love anyway. Someday, Glenn will find happiness in this land with the girl who becomes the mistress of Winterfell. Nadia prayed that one day he'd definitely find someone who truly loves him. Maybe Glenn can make her happy even if he seems cold. Deep down, he's a really good guy. But for some reason, Nadia can't shake this weird feeling. Risa says the Marcus Winterfell and his lady are famous for their amazing relationship, even if it's a marriage of convenience. The maid really wants to stay here a little longer. Who knows when she'll get another chance to see him? The Marchioness let her watch. Turns out, sneaking out like this at night is a blast. It's getting chilly, so she's starting to shiver a little. Aiden decided to walk the lady back, leaving the girls here until she gets back. To get there faster, it's better to go north than south. Guess there's a road Risa doesn't know about. It's cold up north, even this time of year, even though it's warm in the capital, even at night. Aiden didn't even notice. Guess she's used to the northern weather. Nadia's gonna be here for the long haul, so she'll get used to it eventually. On the way back, Nadia suddenly ran into some knights blocking her path. Tristan, the captain of the inner guard, was leading them. He needs to know where she's headed. Nadia said she was just going to her room, acting like she had no clue what was going on. Then the guards stepped aside, and Lady Grace came forward, accusing the girl of a bold-faced lie. She figured the Marchioness was trying to sneak out of the castle, and she wasn't about to let her get away with it. Lady Grace revealed a letter that Nadia had sent to Duke Balazit. Then the girl shot back that if she'd read it, she'd know it was just a normal letter to her dad. However, Lady Grace just can't believe the nerve of this girl lying like that. It's totally different. In the letter to her father, Nadia said she'd done her duty and was planning to leave during the full moon. If you write something with lemon juice, it disappears completely, but if you hold the paper to a flame, you can read everything. If Grace had hesitated even a little, she wouldn't have noticed, and Nadia would have been back with her father a long time ago. Nadia never actually wrote those words. Someone's clearly trying to frame her. In that case, Lady Grace told the doctor to explain everything. Everyone, including Glenn and Giscard, gathered there, not understanding what was going on. According to the doctor, for some unknown reason, the Marquis's temperature spiked this morning, and now his body is burning up. If this keeps up, his life is in danger. Grace is implying that Nadia knows she's done something wrong, since Isaac got sick when she came to him. This must not be the first time the Marquis has acted this way, and this letter proves it. Grace told Glenn to look at this shameless woman who tried to hurt his own father. The Marquise's face twisted with a rage no one had ever seen before when they said she needed to be grabbed and questioned. First, Lord Giscard told her to calm down, but Grace can't stay calm when her family's being targeted. But according to the Lord, it hasn't been proven yet, and somehow this guy's siding with the Marchioness again. He started by saying Lady Nadia has no reason to hurt the Marquise, since the Marquise is in charge of Winterfell. Enraged, Grace asked what he thought the letter said and why her brother's condition worsened after Nadia's visit. That's when the girl claimed she wasn't trying to leave the palace, she just wanted to see the millennial tree in bloom. So Lady Grace wanted to know why she tried to take the shortcut instead of going through the north gate. She screamed at the top of her lungs that the Duchess Balazit is the woman who offed Glenn's mom and is trying to do the same to his dad. His expression is scary, but what horrifies him more is that the person he was trying to give his heart to was trying to take out his family. It's over now. The Marquis of Winterfell said he wants to hear his wife's side of the story. According to the lady, the letter says Nadia intends to harm the Marquis and head back to the capital. But that's weird because she wrote the letter right in front of Glenn. Glenn was right there when she wrote it, so she asked if he saw her writing anything secret with fruit juice. Hearing that, Grace said it was total BS. She's sure the girl is just stirring up trouble. Right then, Glenn confirmed that his wife wrote the letter while he was there, so someone forged the letter to frame his wife. In this tense moment, Grace started sweating noticeably, meaning her nephew had been silent and listening quietly the whole time. And Adie didn't even tell her about Glenn. The lady just wants to know what's behind all this. The only thing Marquis Winterfell wants to know after thinking for a bit is why his aunt did this. Panicking, she started claiming it was some kind of conspiracy and that she had nothing to do with it. Okay, so she obviously faked the letter herself, somehow made the Marquise's condition worse, and staged this whole freakout in the middle of the night. If Glenn accused his wife right now, the truth would never come out, which is exactly what she's banking on. And to top it all off, Lord Winterfell is accusing her of causing the carriage accident. Grace claims she'd never hurt her family, but if she really cared, she'd be looking for the real culprit, instead of trying to screw over Glenn's dad to frame his wife. Immediately, Marquis Winterfell ordered Grace Ground arrested, but she kept insisting she was innocent. If that idiot maid had just done her job right, but since Glenn's looking for someone to blame, the lady threw the maid under the bus. She's the one who delivered the letter, so she's involved and she won't escape the investigation. Grace is sure that when the questioning starts as a family member, they'll believe her more than Aiden, so she can pin everything on her. Hearing this, Nadia defended the maid and figured the lady hadn't had enough, so she decided to find a new scapegoat. The truth is, Adie doesn't have any sick siblings. She didn't take the job to pay for her brother's medicine. It hit Gray hard that the story about Jacob just happening to see a maid who'd lost her way was a total fabrication. So, that lowlife was scheming the whole time to frame the lady. Not long ago, Master Glenn found out the whole truth. However, he didn't figure out who was responsible for his mother's death if the Southerners weren't to blame. Glenn said before that he almost got into the carriage himself, so he could have been in the accident too. Of course, it was just Nadia's theory for now, but she said if that had happened, it would have benefited the aunt. That was a huge shock to Glenn, since she's Dad's own flesh and blood. Nadia wanted to believe it wasn't her too, so she suggested checking it out, because there's a way to prove it. After talking it over with Glenn, she chose the most suitable person, someone she trusts completely. That maid, Adie, was the mastermind behind all this. The Marchioness actually had doubts about the lady's guilt, but she still fell for it. Now the lady will be brought before the Winterfell court, accused of harming the Marquis, with no chance to defend herself. She can't count on her family for support, because they'll definitely kick her out of Winterfell. Glenn went through all of this with a heavy heart. It was incredibly difficult for him to accept the truth. He didn't want to believe it until the very end. Besides him and his aunt, his father had no one. If not Glenn, there's no one else to look after him. But Grace dared to after, his mother, she just moved into his castle like a rat. The young man felt indebted to his wife again, but she told him not to think of it that way, since it concerned her too. Lord Giscard has taken charge of interrogating the lady. He intends to conduct a thorough investigation, so no one escapes justice. The Lord also thanked the lady for her help and asked if she needed an escort. Glenn thought it was a good idea, and with his wife's support, he bravely took it on. The Marquis escorted the girl right to her chambers, and she thanked him sincerely, but it was time for her to go. He might seem calm now, but inside he's devastated, like he's choking on his own blood. Just as Nadia crossed the threshold of her room, it was like Glenn was replaced by someone else. He grabbed her and pulled her close. He embraced her for the first time, held her tighter than he'd ever held anyone, especially after finding out who was involved in the deaths today. The master should be grieving, but he's all right. Since it turned out Nadia isn't the enemy's daughter, his heart is at peace. The girl really hopes he's okay, but all Glenn could muster was an apology. Truth is, he needs to tell her something, he can't deny it. He can't imagine Winterfell without Nadia. Having decided to say everything, the Marquis ultimately decided not to today, and to pick another day. The girl must be exhausted, so Glenn let her go and get some rest. The next day, word got out that she was planning to make her son a lord. After hours of questioning, it turned out she'd gone to extreme lengths to get her son that title. Glenn can't wrap his head around the fact that his aunt was so blinded by greed that she tried to off her own family. He's certain the punishment should fit the crime. He orders everyone involved to be executed and their assets seized. And of course, before that, we need to figure out how she messed with Dad. Giscard was about to tell us what she confessed to. The painting that was hanging in the Marquise's hospital room was a gift from Grace, and something was found on it. According to the Lord, giving a sick person a painting depicting the expulsion of God was a normal thing, so no one suspected a thing. Analysis of the painting revealed that the paint on it was extracted from the taxus plant. When it blooms, it has a vibrant color that can be used as a dye, but when it dries, it releases toxic substances. It looks like the color became lighter because the resulting dye was mixed with another paint. This plant doesn't do much to healthy people, but it can easily kill someone sick like the Marquise. As for Isaac himself, it's hard to say if he can be saved, but he's stable for now. Glenn asked to be notified immediately if anything changes. Looks like Master's training paid off for Nadia. She handles a bow like a pro and never misses. Fabian's over the moon with how amazing she is. He heard she's new, but she's killing it out there. Plus, thanks to her, they figured out who was trying to hurt the Marquise, so they're in the clear now. Nadia cut that conversation short, saying she needed to get back ASAP. Glenn's last words to her keep replaying in her head about how he wanted to tell her something. It might sound crazy, but Nadia thinks it's possible Glenn was trying to confess his feelings. But things are different between them now, so she doesn't know if she can leave Winterfell. Team Rio's finally back from exploring the dragon's lair. Things have been kinda tense lately, so it's good they're here. The boss has never seen so much gold and treasure. He figures we should sell it off little by little so the price doesn't tank. They also found a bunch of relics and documents. We could get some buyers if we put them up for auction. But the craziest thing they got out of there is this huge egg, supposedly a dragon egg. It's the egg Fabian found. He's hoping a baby dragon's gonna hatch from it. But Glenn thinks there's just a stiff in there, forgotten after its owner kicked the bucket. The explorer thinks so too, but still, he felt bad leaving it there. Glenn's got no clue what to do with it. He can't just crack the shell open to see if it's alive. We can't just go and sell off a valuable item that's apparently a dragon egg. Suddenly, it hit the Marquis. Since Nadia found Rio, he decided to entrust the egg to her. The girl didn't expect that at all. She even started to doubt if she was responsible enough for something so precious. Truth is, the chances of it hatching are super slim, but it'll make a one-of-a-kind decoration. The Winterfell estate maids never thought they'd see something like that in real life. If the little critter actually hatches, then they'll have to raise a baby dragon. Then the mistress will become a dragon rider, or even better, a dragon tamer. But Nadia burst their bubble. It's been so long since the last adult dragon died, so the baby probably didn't make it this far. Either way, the maids can see the mistress is hoping it hatches. She really wants it to. It's the first gift Glenn ever gave her, so she's going to treasure it. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. The office went silent instantly. It was Gordon. Just got word from the capital. Lord Lee Jiho has slain the venomous dragon Gatabiru in the south. Hearing that, Nadia knew right away Gordon was talking about something that went down way back. Lee Jiho got some buzz from that Kalai expedition, but taking down Gatabiru is what really made him a legend. Plus, he became a hero during the Demon War. The capital's buzzing with the news. If the Marquis is the hero of the north, then Dragon Slayer Lord Lee Jiho is the hero of the south. This could give the south a real power boost. Whatever they're up to, Glenn's gonna handle what needs handling. Meeting his guest, Duke Balazit recognized the young man behind the Gatabiru slaying. It's a great honor to have the Dragon Slayer himself visit. Lord Lee Jiho knelt before his grace. 27 Reaver squads are reporting back to the Duke. The dragon found in Valen Castle was a sore spot for the Lord, but now that he's earned his title, the Duke knows he won't go down without a fight. Speaking of which, Lee Jiho's timing is perfect. The Duke has someone he wants him to meet. This is his nephew, Aiden Ernst. He just graduated academy this year and came back to the capital. Lord Jiho's fame has reached even the distant academies, but according to the Lord, he's just riding the Duke's coattails. This is the nephew Duke Balazit says will inherit the title if he becomes the next Duke, so it's worth getting on his good side. To him, the Dragon Slayer looks exactly like everyone says he does. So it's no surprise to him that the Duke was considering marrying him off to his cousin, Nadia. Those words twisted something inside the Lord. He barely kept his cool, but said he was grateful for the thought. Enough chit-chat. Duke Balazit has prepared the finest drink in the south to treat our guest. Of course, they'll reward the Lord with more than just drinks. Today, they celebrate his achievements so he can ask for anything. Jiho can also petition the king to be knighted. An opportunity like this doesn't come around often. Duke Balazit will give him time to think it over. The night's gonna be long anyway. Still time to kick back for a bit. Aiden was happy to join in. As for what Lee Jiho wants, well, they've already taken that away from him. Nadia had been watching the egg like a hawk the whole time. Looks like its color's changing. Thinking about all this, she suddenly saw the handsome Marquis Winterfell standing in her doorway. He didn't really want to intrude, but she told him it was fine. Glenn suddenly felt awkward. This is the first time they've been alone together since that day. Last time, he wanted to say something, and just when he'd worked up the nerve to confess again, a loud scream cut through the air. A maid burst into the room at full speed, bringing some crazy news. Turns out the old man, Isaac, finally woke up. So while Isaac Winterfell was out cold, Glenn somehow managed to marry Balazit's daughter. She saw hard times coming, played the market with remedies, and even schemed up a plan to take the castle. Found the location of the Dragon Rio, invented new armor designs, and figured out better ways to farm. Like everything else, she exposed Grace's plot for one reason. She did it all out of love for the Duke. They say it was love at first sight, and let's be real, the guy's got the looks. Basically, Glenn's saying Nadia isn't a Balazit spy. She's a Winterfell ally, so we shouldn't be worried about her. Sounds like he's giving his dad a heads up not to treat her like dirt. He's got a point, but Glenn didn't want to upset Nadia, so he kept making excuses. Isaac actually laughed for the first time in ages. If the girl was a spy, Glenn would have sniffed her out in a heartbeat. His son used to be a stick in the mud, now he's a caring husband. Guess they're right about kids turning your world upside down. Glenn's totally smitten, he's always hanging around Lady Nadia. They figured the Marquis would be interested to see how the finances have changed over the years, so they put together a book. No matter how much Glenn says the finances are solid, it's not enough to put the old man's mind at ease. But the second he saw the books, he couldn't believe his eyes. Even though the new lady's done a lot, this is just wow. Understanding it's a lot to take in, Gordon said he had trouble believing it too. Now Winterfell can go toe-to-toe with the South. In that case, the Marquis expressed his gratitude to the young lady. He's always worried about the money, but now he can relax. Nadia's sure, though, it's not just her doing. They all pulled together to make it happen. And of course, it all worked out because Glenn trusted her. Those two handle everything so well together, the Marquis could kick the bucket happy. All that's left for him now is to wait for an heir for Winterfell. I mean, their family needs an heir, right? They both look healthy, so the Marquis probably isn't sweating it. Marquis Glenn kept his mouth shut, just glancing at his wife now and then, while Nadia was too scared to even breathe. No matter how close she got to Glenn, she was the one who'd be leaving Winterfell in the end. Thinking about how he'd eventually find a woman he actually loved, Nadia steeled herself. She dropped the bomb that the Marquis wasn't interested in her that way, and Glenn was speechless. Even when they first met, Glenn made it clear he could never see the daughter of Balazit as someone special. Yeah, it was a misunderstanding, but he still hurt Nadia, no denying that. But hey, he apologized, right? The Marquis decided he needed to hear about what she just said from his son directly. He couldn't believe Glenn would actually say something like that. But Nadia cut him off, saying it wasn't Glenn's fault. She was the one who fell for the Marquis and pushed him to marry her. She's convinced you can't force someone to love someone they just can't, but it's obvious the Marquis wants an heir. There's only one way to avoid divorce and keep the family name intact. The Marquis needs to take a concubine. Isaac doesn't get why he'd need another woman when he has Nadia. She wouldn't want to raise someone else's kid, would she? But sadly, if the Marquis wants it, his wife won't put up a fight. That was enough for the head of Winterfell to kick everyone out, including Gordon, so he could talk to Glenn. He can't figure out how this even happened or why that conversation took place. It's obvious Glenn cares about her. The young Marquis Winterfell couldn't help it, really. He thought Nadia was a spy at first, and never thought she'd remember his words. But after everything that's happened since then, he's changed his mind. In that case, his father ordered him to fix this misunderstanding, to apologize for all the hurt he caused. The Marquis sees that she's a good person, so Glenn will do just that. Nadia can't sleep at all tonight. She doesn't know what to do about this. Any other time she could have gotten away with it. But things are different now. Glenn trusts her completely. If Glenn actually confesses his feelings and wants to be with her, she won't be able to say no. Plus, Glenn having a kid with another woman, Nadia can say it, but she doesn't even want to think about it. She can't let that happen. If she gets caught up in this, all her plans will be ruined. Nadia can't forget the past. If she stays at Winterfell, she'll get dragged back into politics, just like before. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. Glenn was paying a late-night visit and asked to come in. She let him in, not even suspecting that he came to apologize. Everything he said about her being Duke Balazit's spy was the result of his own poor judgment. Nadia's been wrongly accused and insulted plenty of times, but no one's ever apologized like this. Glenn's different. He's never been this close to her before, never looked at her with such captivating eyes. The Marquis touched her delicate leg, and his hand seemed drawn to it like a magnet. For the first time, he felt this weird pull towards this girl, who he'd always seen as the enemy. Then his lips just moved towards hers on their own. Nadia closed her eyes for a second, giving in to the temptation. But she snapped out of it and pushed him away. She couldn't just let this happen. It's so hard to resist, looking at him like this, but she promised herself she couldn't. She realized she had to confess. She only married him to escape her father's clutches. If Glenn gets pissed and says he wants a divorce right now, so be it. Nadia has to admit she tricked him into this marriage. But if she explains how desperate she was, there's no telling if he'll understand. Right now, the most important thing is for Glenn to hear her out. To talk, they went to the garden, finding a more private and peaceful setting. Man, everything's blooming. Feels like summer even up north, finally warming up. Nadia knows she needs to come clean, but she's starting to wonder if she jumped the gun. Time flies, doesn't it? Feels like they just got hitched, but it's already been months. Come to think of it, this is their first real walk together. Glenn was way too cold, especially after she came all the way up north just to find him. And now, when the guy finally tried to kiss her, it totally fizzled. Taking a deep breath, Nadia decided to talk and asked if he even trusted her. Glenn was confused why she was asking, but said there were some misunderstandings before. But now, of course, he trusts her. Truth is, she's got something she needs to confess, so she asked him to listen and not freak out. Getting down on one knee, Marquis Winterfell swore an oath that no matter what she said, he promised to believe her. Obviously, if Nadia tells the truth, Glenn's gonna be majorly disappointed in her. Even if her feelings weren't genuine, she really did enjoy spending time with him. Her heart's going crazy, and bitter tears are streaming down her face. Seeing her eyes wet with tears, Glenn suddenly said she didn't marry him for love. The girl instantly held her breath, not understanding how he knew. Actually, the Marquise doesn't doubt her loyalty to Winterfell after everything she's done. Thanks to Nadia, Winterfell is only flourishing, and so is Glenn. A lot has changed. But the more he thinks about it, the harder it is for him to believe such a wise woman could fall for him, a total stranger. Even if it was all a lie, Nadia is really important to him now, and he's ready to hear her truth. The truth is, she can't stand her family. That's the whole story. Glenn was absolutely horrified that the Duke and her sister tried to, take her out. Dad wanted to use her like a pawn, then ditch her. If Nadia had stayed with him, he definitely would have offed her. To survive, she had to bolt from Balazit. That's when she met Glenn, someone who hates Balazit as much as she does. A guy with status and power, able to stand up to Duke Balazit, someone who'd get revenge for her. Because of that, Lady Balazit had to lie. She feels bad, but she'll keep helping Winterfell grow, 'cause it'll benefit everyone. And one day, when the Balazit family falls, she'll quietly leave Winterfell. Glenn wasn't ready for that kind of truth. Nadia's definitely gonna file for divorce, 'cause the Marquis didn't want to stay with a woman he didn't love either. Once everything's settled, she suggests they split up so Glenn can find a new wife. He suspected his wife had secrets, but he never thought things were this messed up. He was so focused on his own stuff, he didn't pay her any attention. Nadia figured out the best way to get what she wanted, laid out all her plans step by step. She didn't even mind being called a woman blinded by love. But all that was back when she was desperate for revenge. Glenn might seem pissed after hearing all this, but when you think about it, he doesn't really have a reason to be. Nadia's hatred for Duke Balazit is nothing but good luck for him. She somehow brought Winterfell back from the brink. He'll never find someone as smart and capable as Nadia again. She got her revenge, and Glenn got rid of his arch-enemy Balazit. It's a win-win. He gets exactly what he wanted. Glenn Winterfell isn't disappointed, and none of this is a surprise. It was just awkward that she kept saying she was in love with him. Right now, Nadia's probably facing even bigger challenges than before, so Glenn needs to ditch the feelings. Thinking about what's best for the family, he said he's definitely not bummed. He's got nothing to be angry about. Winterfell's thriving, and he wanted to take down Balazit. Nadia didn't have a choice, so he's sure he shouldn't blame her for faking her feelings for him. She never thought he'd understand, and she's super grateful that he does. Now you could say they've got a sweet deal going. Nadia doesn't have to lie about loving him anymore. Like he said, it's a mutually beneficial arrangement now, so she doesn't need to sweat the small stuff. Later that night, Glenn started getting eaten up by his thoughts, so he decided to blow off some steam with a workout. He can't figure out since when he can't take his eyes off her, even when she's just smiling. He was floored when he heard he was supposed to have an heir with another woman. Thinking about it, the boss pulled too hard on the corners and cut his hand. Only now did he realize what he was about to say to get her to stay with him. It's all clear now. It's not her who's in love with him, it's the other way around. Fabian noticed the master was acting super weird and figured something must have gone down between him and the mistress. Risa's saying the mistress hasn't had any appetite or energy lately either. Suddenly, a maid screamed and Risa came rushing over with some important news. Turns out, the Marquis told Glenn to head to the mistress's chambers. That evening, Nadia wasn't herself. She was completely consumed by one thing. Not long ago, a maid said the master was coming today. The Marquise is pushing for them to have an heir. Just like she said, Master Glenn showed up the second he heard about it. Knowing the Marquise sent him, Nadia let him sleep in her bed and decided to take the couch. But then, totally out of the blue, she felt Glenn grip her hand tight. He wasn't gonna let her leave. The girl doesn't need to go anywhere, because he's the one who's gonna sleep on the couch. After thinking for a bit, Nadia suggested they share the bed. It's big enough, she figured they'd be comfortable. Turns out, even on a bed that size, these two were way too flustered to chill out. Glenn tried to reassure himself that Nadia was cool with it too. Just then, the girl got lost in her memories. She realized she needed to say something. Still, things are good now, right? She's here, and Winterfell is basically untouchable for her old man. Besides, if anything does go down, Nadia's sure Glenn Winterfell will have her back. Hearing that, the guy jumped out of bed, hand over his heart, and promised to protect her. They're partners, after all, with a common goal. As long as they're together, nothing's gonna hurt Nadia. Glenn's got her. She said she didn't love him, that it was all an act, and he still said he'd protect her. Even her own family, the people she trusted most, turned their backs and sold her out. Suddenly, Glenn gently laid the girl on the bed, hoping it wasn't too much to ask her to stay. Looking straight into his eyes, Nadia was frozen, but she hadn't completely lost it yet. She slapped her husband away and hid under a pillow, intending to stay there for a while. She knows she can't take advantage of such a good man by being around him. If her plan works, Nadia wants to leave Winterfell, but she can't say it's for his sake. After those words, Glenn's expression changed noticeably, but he heard her and understood everything. No matter what happens, the master will try to help her. The next day brought beautiful sunny weather, and the Marchioness went for a walk with her maids. Turns out, even the north gets warm weather. Maybe all the flowers will bloom in weather like this. When Nadia turned around, neither Risa, Adi, nor Yuri were anywhere nearby. They'd run off somewhere. Spotting the training arena, the girls couldn't resist taking a peek at the brave master. Now the Marchioness gets why they were all so eager for a stroll. Their master is absolutely gorgeous. He won the annual fencing tournament against the Empire's best swordsman. According to the maids, he even won the Imperial archery tournament. There's no other knight like him on the whole continent. That pretty much explains the whole love at first sight thing. Lee Ji-ho is popular in the south, but he can't hold a candle to their master, a master of both sword and bow, known for his battlefield smarts. Confirming everything the maids said, Marquis Winterfell showed up way too suddenly, catching the girls off guard. He mentioned that he's pretty good, tall, and his shoulders are broader than Lee Ji-ho's. The last time they talked, Glenn said he heard Nadia, but didn't say he'd follow her advice. He regrets everything he said to her, and it's driving him crazy. He really put her through it after her family turned on her. If Nadia's got the time, Glenn suggested they keep up with her archery practice. Truth is, he's not letting Nadia go, even if he can't rewind time. He'll just make a new opportunity to change Nadia's mind, even if he has to bend over backwards to do it. So, there they are, just the two of them in the woods, and she's thinking they're gonna sling some arrows. The Marquis says the fastest way to get better is practice, but Nadia's like, dude, I can barely even draw the bow. She's got nothing to worry about. Her husband's gonna be watching her like a hawk. And that's why he brought her to this little patch of woods near the estate. It's weird that they don't have any knights with them. Going this deep into the forest, they definitely need an escort. Glenn says they're not done with their training yet, so they're on standby for now. Not too long ago, those knights almost lost their minds when they heard the Marquis finally changed his tune. Nadia can't know about this, so he's gotta tread carefully. The kid reassured the boss and told him to trust him. There's nothing the Northerners can't handle. The Southerners think Northerners don't know squat about love and relationships, but that's a load of bull. Time to start learning the basics of relationships for the Marquis of Winterfell. First things first, the kid invited him out to the woods for some archery. According to the plan, the first thing Glenn needed was some alone time, and he nailed it. Now it's time for step 2, show off his strength. The target's right there, it's a monster the knights sent. After the first shot, step 2 of the plan. Show off his strength complete. Nadia had heard her husband was the best archer in the whole empire, but this was insane. She wants to try her hand at archery, but her bow's back at the stables. Then Glenn hands her this amazing bow, a special one he made just for her. That's step 3 of the plan, complete. Prepare a really thoughtful gift. Out of the corner of her eye, Nadia spots a clumsy knight in ambush and finally gets why Glenn's been acting so weird today. The fact they're alone out here, and that his target just conveniently popped up, it's all thanks to his knights. Those northern guys really drop the ball sometimes. First, the Lord suggested she try hitting a small tree. Nadia pulls back the string with a snap and lets the arrow fly, but it just thumps into the ground. Following step 4, shower her with praise, Glenn tells her it was just a long shot. The girl bursts out laughing. She hasn't had this much genuine fun in ages. The Marquis used to seem cold and intimidating, but now he just seems awkward. She called him sweetie, and for a second Glenn felt his heart pounding in his chest. The rain started so suddenly, Nadia figured he'd even planned the weather. Hearing that, Glenn seemed to realize she was on to him. There's an abandoned cabin nearby, so he suggested waiting out the rain there. The rain's getting heavier, drumming big drops on the shack's rickety roof. The forest smells like damp earth and moss. Doesn't look like this rain's gonna let up anytime soon, but at least we can wait it out here. In that light summer dress, Nadia looks especially gorgeous today. It's impossible to look at her without feeling something. So she wouldn't get cold, Glenn put his cardigan around her shoulders. It's a shame it's raining so hard. She would have preferred to be caught in the snow. There's no snow in the south, even in winter. Building a snowman has been her dream since childhood, but they never had enough snow. This place gets snow up to your waist in winter, but even Glenn never built a snowman. Now, after this conversation, he definitely wants to give it a shot. With everything that's been going on lately, just sitting here listening to the rain is kinda relaxing. If the lady's tired, the Marquis suggested they just hang tight for a bit. He's so sweet right till the end. You can get through even crummy weather with a smile when he's around. The knights weren't expecting it to pour like this. They lost sight of the lord and lady. While wandering the woods looking for the Marquis, they stumbled across an abandoned cabin deep in the forest. But as soon as they stepped inside, they quieted down and realized they should come back later. Looks like the new farming tools are doing the trick. The villagers are giving great feedback. The Marchioness of Winterfell is glad to hear it helped. She's looking forward to seeing what the harvest will be like this year. Glenn heard the new landowners in the territory were killing it too, all thanks to the Marchioness. The girl's stoked to hear that, but she knows it's not all her doing. Lately, everything feels like a dream, and her plan's getting closer. Compared to her old life, everything here's so chill and comfy. It sounds selfish, but as much as she wants to freeze time, Nadia's glad things are moving forward. Suddenly, a flustered maid burst into the office, bringing urgent news for the Marquis. The Marquis and Marchioness couldn't believe their ears. A monster wave is headed their way. There are some casualties in the villages along the northern border, but the reported damage is minimal. But Milady's convinced the monster horde will reach a densely populated area real soon. That's when Marquis Winterfell decided it was time to gear up and head out, as soon as everyone's ready. When Nadia suggested testing out the new armor, Lord Giscard agreed, figured it was a good way to keep things under wraps. And get this, the girl asked to tag along with them. Now, everyone knows bringing a woman on a monster wave hunt is just bad news and seriously dangerous. Totally predictable reaction, but Nadia needs to get out there, got something she has to do. Surprisingly, Glenn didn't object. I mean, she's practically family. After everything she's done for the Winterfell family, no one deserves it more. The Lord didn't see any harm in her coming, said she'd be under his protection. Once everyone was geared up, they finally set off, rocking that new knight armor. A monster wave is when these creatures from the demon realm break through new gates and pour into our world. It's a total disaster. Can't be stopped because we don't know what causes it, so we gotta react fast. The Marquis, brave as hell, ordered the attack, told them to keep their distance. Figures. Regular arrows ain't doing squat against these kinds of monsters. But he only decided to pull back when those things got way too damn close. The monsters are chasing the archers, using them as bait. This squad is totally unprepared. Glenn's sure he can beat this loser crew by using his brain. He ordered the cavalry to charge. Time to start hunting these rats cornered in a trap. Lord Winterfell, on horseback, fought bravely against these tough bastards, chasing them down. Surrounded by knights, Nadia silently watched the battle from the highest point. There really are a ton of monsters. It's scary to think about the damage they'd do if they attacked Winterfell territory. This time their Marquis is with them. Fabian's sure they'll win today without a single casualty. These northerners got lucky. Nadia had heard Glenn was a top-notch soldier even before they got hitched, but seeing it firsthand, way more impressive. Glenn's done his part, now it's her turn to step up. So, the Marchioness finally spills that she wants to make a special product using monster byproducts. Truth is, the Knights already tried making stuff after monster waves, but it's all garbage. Better to just burn it. But Lady Winterfell thinks she can figure out what they're good for. Glenn figures she's gotta be onto something. Nadia's always been a huge asset to Winterfell with her smarts. She's saying the byproducts from monster waves can be used as medicine. The experts already said they're useless, but this recipe is totally unknown to the world. Which makes sense, since Nadia learned about it from some ancient forbidden book. She's looking shady again, learned that in her past. More specifically, it became clear after she saw how the demons were using their own kind. They were planning to use this stuff as food and medicine in the coming war against humans. Farming's definitely important, but a country needs manufacturing to really thrive. True that. If we can get something useful out of the waste, it'll be a serious asset. Nadia used the jellyfish as an example. Even without legs, it's still valuable. The jellyfish's byproducts, like its hair, contain venom. There's only a hair's breadth between medicine and poison. The girl got way too close to that jellyfish, not expecting one of its snake heads to suddenly lash out at her. Nadia barely had time to shut her eyes in fear when she felt the Marquis's arms around her as he chopped off the snakehead. Thank goodness Nadia's all right. The master is really relieved. He was so worried about her. Suddenly, Glenn shuddered, like he'd been electrocuted. He felt a burning sensation. The venom had eaten right through his armor and wounded him. In the end, the knight took all the blame, figuring he should have checked things out first. But Nadia's convinced it's all her fault. She wasn't careful enough. While they were talking, the healer finished checking out the injured Marquis and came out to give us the rundown. It's a nasty wound, but he'll pull through. He's running a fever though, so you should probably get a servant to help out. When she heard he needed cold compresses, Nadia jumped in and said there was no need. She'd take care of it herself. The first thing Glenn asked when they met up was if she was hurt. Aside from being a little shaken, she's fine, but he got hurt because of her. According to him, those snake-like monsters have tough bodies, and sometimes they can still mess you up even after you kill them. They didn't search the area thoroughly enough. Still, if Glenn hadn't been protecting his wife, this wouldn't have happened. After something like this, Nadia can't even look him in the eye. She knows perfectly well he needs his strength to get back to Winterfell. Glenn risked everything to save her, but she thinks it's just too much. Truth is, the Marquis is pretty damn good at monster fighting, and he did make a promise. So this is the whole knight in shining armor thing everyone talks about. No wonder Nadia never saw a real knight before. If Glenn only knew how hot he looks to his wife right now, she'd be head over heels if she were still a kid. After those words, the guy went straight tomato red. I guess she doesn't realize what she's saying. Touching his forehead, Milady could feel the fever rising from the poison, but his cheeks were already burning up. His face was practically on fire, so Nadia sent him to bed and put a cold compress on him. Of course, Glenn can't just drift off to sleep with her around after she said something like that. He finally crashed out closer to nightfall, and his fever broke, so Nadia stopped freaking out so much. She's honestly so grateful that Glenn kept his promise and protected her. For that, she rewarded her knight with a kiss, a first kiss that landed on the Marquis's skin like a cool whisper. After wiping out that monster wave, the Winterfell defense team's back in action. We got all the byproducts loaded up for further research. Glenn's still hoping to get closer to his wife, be there for her, and lend a hand. It's already snowing. Looks like it's starting to get seriously cold. It's been a while since Nadia first came to Winterfell. Just then, Glenn remembered she said she wanted to build a snowman. Looks like they'll get their chance soon. Winterfell's getting hit with the first frost. After they got back to the estate, Gordon was nice enough to greet them at the entrance. Nothing major happened while you were gone, just that my workload doubled now that Mr. Wayne's back. He was off on a trip, said he wants to talk to the missus. Perfect timing. Nadia's got some questions for him. Wayne figures they sold most of the jewelry and art, totaling 84,000 gold. He did a solid job and his cut's higher than usual, so he's not complaining. When Nadia suddenly asked if he could visit the capital, Wayne thought they'd found another dragon. Turns out they're byproducts from the monster wave, and now they're gonna turn them into specialty products and sell them. Seemed weird to Wayne, 'cause it's basically useless junk. Of course, he griped a lot. Everyone's got an opinion on this stuff. Still, Nadia really appreciates his work and will try to boost his income, if that's okay with him. Also, Wayne brought the lady something as a gift, straight from the heart. It's silk made from threads woven by the Golden Forest fairies. It's tough to get, but the boss lucked out. It's super expensive stuff. the very silk Korean's been dreaming about. The moment Wayne saw it, he thought of the lady and asked to accept it as a sign of respect and sincerity. Glenn figured it'd make a killer dress for the holidays. He's sure the silk will come in handy, so he suggested Milady take it. The Marquis is right. Nadia would seriously rock a dress made from this silk. On the way back, Wayne's assistant had a question pop into his head. It's about the silk, of course. Couldn't they have gifted it to the Marquis himself or his father? Hearing that, Wayne smacked the kid upside the head to knock some sense into him. Obviously, in this family, the Marquis comes first, then his father, and then the lady. But Wayne's convinced that's BS. The lady's the one who really calls the shots. Even though the Marquis is the head of Winterfell, the lady's the one making all the real decisions. And get this, for the first time in forever, Wayne saw the Marquis with that look on his face. The trade company rep is still scratching his head, wondering how they all missed that their young master was head over heels. Nadia's still wondering if the silk is too flashy, especially since she's not even planning on celebrating. Then Risa suddenly remembered that a royal invite was coming soon. His Majesty's birthday is right around the corner. Since Nadia can't disobey a direct order from the king, sooner or later she's gotta head to the capital. She's got no choice, she's gonna have to face her family. Having made up her mind, the Marchioness asked Risa to send someone for a fitting and set up a time. Thinking about all this, she tried to calm herself down, reminding herself that she's not the same Nadia she used to be. Before she could even dive into her urgent tasks, something amazing suddenly caught her eye. It's a dragon egg, and it didn't have those cracks before. The egg started cracking right in front of everyone. It seems impossible, but something's about to hatch. As soon as Glenn found out, he blamed himself for everything. Who would have thought anything would actually hatch from that egg? Worried sick about Nadia, he burst into the office, but what he saw blew his mind. The Marchioness greeted him holding a dragon. A tiny little black one with golden eyes actually hatched. A real, honest-to-goodness baby dragon. This is seriously mind-blowing. Glenn noticed it looks different, but whatever, it seems okay. Doesn't look dangerous, at least. Friendly monsters are rare, but newborns can imprint on whoever they see first as their mother. Guess that's why it's following Nadia around. The little guy thinks she's his mom. Now she wants to give him a name and decided to ask Glenn if he had any suggestions. He suggested calling him Dragonia, but she's not sure if he'll actually become a guardian dragon someday. No telling if he'll become a guardian dragon or a total disaster for this place. Even if he's just a little dragon, he's still a tiny monster. The second Glenn said that, the little guy latched onto his hand with those sharp teeth. Nadia jumped up, all worried, but Glenn told her to chill. The dragon didn't hurt him. Furious, she started telling the little guy that biting people is a no-go. If he keeps acting like that, she can't keep him around. If he attacks his master, the servants will kick him out, and there's nothing she can do about it. The little dude obviously got super bummed after hearing that. He's just a baby. Nadia finally came up with a name for him. From now on, this little guy is called Noah. After a while, Noah went missing, and Nadia frantically started searching the whole estate for him. Haven't seen him in a while. He's probably checking everything out. Now we gotta find this cute little critter somewhere. Seeing the lady in the kitchen, the woman was totally confused about what she was doing there. It's all about Noah. Nadia can't find him anywhere. According to the Dragon Book, the little guys prefer being inside enclosed spaces. Plus, they need to eat a ton. Following the rustling behind some boxes, the lady found the little dragon, stuffing his face with sweets. She told him that he should have asked for food if he was hungry. Come to think of it, the young master used to run off all the time too. The cook remembers him when he was still growing like a weed. He grew so fast that as soon as he woke up, he'd head straight for food and still be hungry, always sneaking into the kitchen. Nadia can't believe Glenn was like that. Sounds like he was a real sweetheart back then. Only now does she realize how much this little dragon kid looks like Glenn. Looks like he raided the whole castle for snacks before Nadia could even find him. This is all Noah's fault and his curiosity, but so far nothing serious has happened, and he listens to her. For some reason, Glenn feels like the dragon's standing between him and Nadia. Not long ago, we got an invite from the royal family for the king's birthday bash. Turns out they want Nadia there, so she needs to get ready to make a good impression. By the way, the effectiveness of medicine made from natural ingredients has already been proven, so she's planning to start making them in the capital. It's not that Glenn doesn't trust her, he's just a little worried. You know, noble families don't usually get involved in trade. This made Nadia realize that he's concerned she won't be taken seriously in the capital. However, if things don't work out, Glenn told her not to push herself too hard. No one in the family will judge her. Lately, her husband's been so friendly, the Marchioness can hardly believe he's the same guy she met the first time. Most importantly, they need to conserve their strength. The real story is just getting started. Lord Lee Ji-ho got an invite from the royal family for the king's birthday bash. Just thinking about it makes him feel all warm inside. He's really hoping they'll meet up again soon. With the emperor's birthday celebration coming up, getting ready for the trip to the capital has been a total madhouse. And Nadia's experiencing something like this for the first time. Turns out it's way more fun than she thought. She's gorgeous. That silk from the precious forest is seriously top-notch. The seamstress specifically brought a fabric sample before sewing the outfit. She had no idea how stunning the Marchioness really is. Glenn was surprised that all this fuss about clothes was necessary. He figured as long as she was comfy and warm, it was all good. Nadia thinks all the outfits are amazing. She can't pick one, so she asked him to choose. Glenn has to pick an outfit? That request totally froze him in his tracks. Actually, there's one more dress they haven't tried on yet. The seamstress is sure everyone will love it. Lady Balazit got a little excited seeing the latest dress. It's the hottest trend down south. This incredible dress, soft violet hues, deep cut, backless. Nadi doesn't even know if she can pull something like this off. Seeing her all dolled up, Glenn was speechless but figured it was maybe a little too revealing. The seamstress immediately shot back, saying the fashion trend down south is all about showing off your figure, not hiding it. She asked them to trust her. She knows the Flora's wardrobe fashion house like the back of her hand. It's the center of Southern style. Since Nadi wasn't used to that kind of cut and was worried she'd feel awkward, Milady threw a shawl over her shoulders. Glenn could barely contain himself, seeing how gorgeous she looked. So, all good, and Nadia decided to go with that dress. Out of nowhere, the seamstress offered to style the Marquise too, figuring he might have seen something he liked. She thought it would be cool to give them matching looks, since they get along so well and would look amazing together. Nadia thought it was a good idea, so she suggested he buy something. Mr. Glenn only agreed because of her, which made the tailor so happy she rushed to take his measurements. The Marquis has got a killer physique. Ideas are just popping into my head. Milady showed them the designs she recommends and decided to slip away to the warehouse for a bit. This book's got a real collection of amazing looks, but Nadia just can't decide which is best. As for Glenn, everything looks the same to him. He has no idea what to pick. Deciding to just get it over with, he picked one at random and offered it to his wife. But Nadia had found something way more interesting and started getting closer and closer, making him real uncomfortable. She'd never been this close to him before. They stared into each other's eyes. Embarrassed, the Marquis immediately pulled away and decided to go with her suggestion. Glenn finally got back home a little later, finding Noah in a pretty good mood. But the second that dragon saw Glenn, his whole vibe just tanked. Guess he's just bummed that Nadia's not around. Of course, Mr. Winterfell's bummed the little guy doesn't like him, but hey, Noah's not even a year old. But now that they're all together, they better start getting along. Figuring he had no choice, Glenn went to pet the little guy, but immediately got a solid smackdown. This newborn dragon just spoke in a human voice, asking where the Marquis thought he was putting his hand. And he also told this regular dude not to be an idiot. Glenn's face was like he'd never seen a dragon speaking human before. Actually, Noah's way older than him, and even though he just hatched, he can already spread his wings. Guess he wasn't vibing with the dude, 'cause the little guy just took off, flew right out of the window. If that kid can talk, he's gonna do it in front of Nadia, bet. That evening, Nadia was out cold in her bed, but some seriously messed up nightmares started creeping into her head. This place around her, she's back in that prison where she died. But the biggest surprise? Seeing Lee Ji-ho here, big relief that the lady's finally back. Dad and Korean are stoked she's back too. This is all seriously freaky. She realized she's gotta bail, quick, or she's gonna get offed like last time. But her past life's like a shadow dogging her, or some hitman messing with her life won't leave her alone. Karen doesn't want his little sis leaving. She's never escaping this place. Nadia woke up screaming, gasping for air, like someone was trying to choke the life out of her. She jolted awake, heart pounding like crazy, feeling like she'd been reborn. Ever since that trip to the capital, she's been having nightmares. Thought she was over it, but no such luck. Now she's second-guessing herself, wondering if she's obsessing about running into those people again. Seeing Nadia up at this hour, Lord Glenn was totally thrown, wondering what she was doing out here. She said she was having trouble sleeping, decided to take a walk. He saw her from the window and wanted to check in. She looks totally wrecked, so he's dying to know what's going on. That's how the Marquise found out she dreamed about her family again. Just a fleeting glimpse, but it keeps haunting her. Glenn actually gets it. Sounds like things were seriously rough with her family back then. He's just hoping Nadia's not stressing too much now, especially since she's not alone anymore. Her husband's been so sweet and attentive, she's starting to see him in a whole new light. There's definitely something sparking between them. Right when things were getting intense, the dragon screeched, and little Noah popped out of nowhere, rushing to his mistress. Something was bugging him. Nadia figured he was scared she'd vanished, but still, he shouldn't be out so late. It was bedtime, so Milady told Glenn to head to his room too. Soon it was departure day for the capital, but judging by the look of it, Noah didn't want to stay behind guarding the estate. According to the Marquise, if they didn't want to make camp, they better get moving ASAP. Nadia would definitely take Noah next time. Lee Ji-ho is a dragon slayer, and if he sees Noah, there'll be trouble. Before leaving, Glenn asked his father to take care of everything, including the dragon. Time to hit the road. This trip's gonna be long and full of awesome stuff. Glenn was right. Nadia wasn't alone anymore. She didn't have to fear those people anymore. The trip to the capital was smooth. They stopped at night to grab a bite and check out a field of blooming flowers. So, a few days in the carriage went by before they finally arrived. Glenn told his wife not to sweat it, figuring nothing would happen overnight, just in case he barred any outside interference. There it is, the Fried County. They finally made it. Soon after the Emperor's invite, they got a letter from her dad, almost like he knew Nadia would go. The Duke set them up with a place to stay near the capital. He told them to spend the night at Count Fried's estate. At first glance, it seemed like he was talking to his daughter, but really it was like he was giving her instructions. It'd be great to get through this without a hitch, like Glenn said, but Nadia can't help being nervous. They were greeted warmly at the Fried estate. The Marquis and Marchioness were beat after the long trip. Next to the Count is his daughter, Livier. If the guests have any questions, they can ask her. Livier Fried introduced herself, saying she was very pleased to meet Marquis Winterfell and was sure they'd get along great. Only Nadia knows Livier Fried is the woman who was married to Glenn in a past life. She was soon accused of, shall we say, misconduct and taken care of, so our girl doesn't get why they're still here. Even though Livier's a count's daughter, she's got a heart of gold. Hearing they were coming, she personally decorated the castle. She brightened the whole place up, so the guests are gonna love it here. Livier insisted on showing them around herself. The Fried estate is seriously gorgeous. You can tell at a glance they paid attention to every detail. The paintings on the wall really grab your eye. They gotta be by someone famous, right? Actually, Livier did 'em all. She's a little rough around the edges, skill-wise, but she's mortified the guests noticed. Nadia doesn't know squat about art, but even she thinks the paintings are amazing. She made the eagle statue too. Looks totally alive. Guess she was bored and decided to give it a shot. According to Milady, when she sees something beautiful or something really moves her, she just has to capture it. Livier's saying the Marquis should be her muse. She hasn't seen a man that gorgeous in ages. She really wants to capture his image, like preserve him as a work of art. Too bad for her. He and his wife are only here for a short time, so Glenn figures it'll be tough. Totally convinced the painting would be amazing, Livier suggested they come back sometime. Looks like Lady Frida, wanting to get her hands on such a handsome dude, got a little too touchy. The Marquis wasn't having it. He said he's married and didn't want any misunderstandings between them. Totally clueless about what just happened, Nadia decided to ask what kind of work this was. It looks like Livier's trying to, right in front of his wife. Plus, Nadia's getting the vibe that she's about to get stabbed in the back. Maybe it's 'cause it's the first time she's seen Glenn with another woman, especially since he was married to a spy last time around. If it weren't for Lady Balazet's laurel wreath that Glenn got in this life, they'd be hitched again. Actually, Count Frida was surprised that the quiet lady suddenly fell head over heels for the Marquis and married him. Glenn's so handsome, Nadia's sure anyone would fall for him at first sight. The Count's really happy to see how close they are. He wants to find a good husband for his own daughter, too. She lost her mother young, and the Count tried so hard to raise her right that she never managed to break free of his grip. As for the mansion, the guests are having a great time thanks to Livier. They were really blown away. Her work amazed Nadia, especially the statue, which looked like it was alive when they first saw it. Hearing that, Livier looked down at her plate and started eating silently. Just then, Glenn chimed in, saying the statue especially impressed him. Livier perked right up. Now it's her favorite piece, just as she figured. Beautiful eyes only see beauty in art. Oh, by the way, the guests saw a really beautiful lake on the way here. If his darling wants, Glenn suggested they go there after lunch, and Livier immediately wanted to have a picnic there. Nadia's hoping she's imagining things. This girl's totally ignoring her and only talking to Glenn. She seems to have a thing for Glenn. Maybe she was the one who pushed for their marriage in a past life, and maybe there weren't any real feelings between them. Noticing his wife's weird mood, the Marquis suddenly decided to step away. He said his wife was super tired from the long trip. It'd be a real drag for the Freed family to keep a tired guest, so the Count let her go and wished her a good night. As soon as the Marquis and Marchioness finally got to their room, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Nadia just didn't get why there was a bathtub right in the middle of the room. Guess the servants didn't get the message, or maybe it's a test to see if we're really serious about each other, serious enough to bathe together. It'd be good to know if there are different places to clean up around here, Glenn figured he'd ask. Come to think of it, they did bathe together in that public bath, but the tub was huge back then, and they didn't really think about it. But now their bodies would be touching. Nadia doesn't even know why she's thinking about Glenn like this. Figuring he was beat, she decided to go on ahead and let him clean up here. It was so awkward she just bolted out of there, not even thinking straight. It's weird, it's dead silent in the hall, not even a servant around to ask. Hearing someone's voice behind the door, Milady realized someone was here after all and decided to go in. In the study, Count Frida was once again reminding his daughter to pull out all the stops, woman to woman, and she's not even trying. Nadia feels like she just walked in on something she shouldn't have. It'd probably be bad news if they ran into each other, so she decided to get out of here, quick. Then she suddenly overheard that they were trying to win Glenn's heart before he left. A month ago, when Count Frida heard about Duke Balazit, he thought the guy was messing with him. He wanted the northern spy gig, and Duke Balazit had the nerve to snatch it away, making the Count look bad in the Emperor's eyes. And now Duke Balazit is asking this chick and the Marquis Winterfell to spend the night at his place. If it weren't for him, Count Frida would have totally gotten in good with the Emperor. His rage will never die, so he came up with a plan to one-up his sworn enemy. Come to think of it, Winterfell's doomed if he hooks up with the Duke's daughter. No sane man could fall for the enemy's kid. The Count needs to remove the barrier between the Marquis and his daughter. He definitely won't be able to resist a young, beautiful girl. Then Count Frida will gain the Emperor's trust and crush that arrogant jerk who sent those two to him. But for some reason, the relationship between those two seems so good, they even look cute together. The Count's convinced that if his daughter had been smarter and offered the wreath before Nadia did, none of this would have happened. If Livier had been more appealing, she could have easily won Glenn's heart, despite whatever connection those two have. That's what happens when you only have one daughter. The Count's got nothing else to talk to her about. Hearing footsteps, Nadia barely managed to duck around the corner before Lady Frida burst out of her father's study, bawling. In her father's eyes, Livier's worthless, and that's so much like Nadia's past life. That stigma followed her everywhere. Nadia instinctively moved toward the door, unsure what to do next or how she could help Lady Frida. Obviously, she should just turn back now, but her heart won't let her just walk away and leave things as they are. Her hand reached out and knocked on the door, and Livier jumped a little when she heard it. The thing is, she and her husband only have one bedroom in their place, so Nadia decided to see if there's another room available. Before the Count's daughter's tears could even dry, she opened the door and let her guest in. Stepping inside, the main character spotted something under the bed. Looked like a piece of cloth shoved way back there. That ain't just any cloth. There aren't many innocent uses for something like that in a bedroom. Since they couldn't get a real conversation going, Nadia figured she'd push things now. But Lady Frida, claiming she wasn't feeling well, suggested they talk another time. Just then, the Marchioness unexpectedly grabbed her hands and begged her not to. She was getting worried about what's been bothering Livier lately. Lady Frida didn't like that one bit, so she told her guest to leave and said she'd have a maid draw her a bath. The truth is, Nadia had overheard her conversation with the Earl. In that case, Livier guessed the lady felt sorry for her, which is apparently a real shocker for someone who grew up loved. So, the lady felt sorry for her and followed her? Livier never thought she looked that pathetic. Too bad for her, she doesn't know Nadia and her are in the same boat. Lady Balazit spent way too long living under her dad's thumb, so she just couldn't stand by and do nothing. She knows how much it sucks, so she figures she can at least get Livy to hear her out. It'll take a minute, but the lady really wants to tell her something. After calming Miss Livy down, Nadia told her story. It wasn't easy to open up like that. After hearing all that, Livy realized she totally jumped to the wrong conclusion and felt genuinely bad. No matter how tough it gets, Nadia hopes the girl doesn't get any dark ideas. Maybe not now, but there'll be a chance to get out of here eventually. She just saw that rope under the bed and, her mind went to a bad place. Livy burst out laughing at that. Looks like there was a misunderstanding. Actually, that rope wasn't hidden for that kind of reason. It's for stress relief. Lady Frida could probably just show her. Gripping the rope with both hands, the lady wondered if Nadia had ever snuck out of the house before. That unforgettable feeling of freedom she chose to share with the Marchioness almost took her breath away. Now it was clear what the rope was for, and Miss Livia's personality shifted fast. Following her, Nadia got a chance to see something special. She found herself in such a peaceful place. Turns out this is the very lake she mentioned during dinner. When Livier's mom was alive, they used to come here for picnics all the time. Every time she tried to climb a tree, she'd fall and get scolded, probably just wanted someone to fuss over her. This place stayed in her heart as a warm memory, so when she comes here, she feels like she can breathe again. She also hopes Nadia remembers the paintings she saw earlier. They were all created right here. Actually, her father doesn't really like Livier painting, so she only does it when she can, in secret spots. Truth be told, she dreamed of getting into art school, but her dad just told her to get married and stop with the nonsense. To him, art's just a way to boost her value, nothing more. Nadia never even considered that Lady Livier had no choice but to just suck it up and live with it. She's the first person Livier's ever confessed to. Hearing Nadia's story made her want to escape this place someday too. The big question is, will she actually be able to pull it off? The Marchioness is beyond confident she will, and she really wants to convince Milady of that. Livier's actually super grateful to her. She hasn't felt this honest and happy in ages. That night, they talked for hours. It was the first time Nadia met a girl her age she could really open up to. Come to think of it, that's what you call friendship, right? The next morning, it was time to leave. Count Frida would definitely be expecting them. After last night, Livier is really bummed that Nadia's leaving. Nadia's bummed too, actually. If they had more time, they could have talked about a lot more. To clear the air, Lady Frida confessed she never had any feelings for the Marquis. It was obvious from the start the Marquis was only in love with his wife. He didn't even seem to notice the Earl's daughter. If Livier's got a thing for anyone, it's that coachman, so there's nothing to worry about. Now they really gotta get going. Livier wished her friend a safe journey as a goodbye. In the carriage, Glenn suddenly brought up how they both got back late last night, but he noticed Nadia looked sad. They actually managed to connect. It's the first time the Marchioness has managed to make a friend. Time passed like that, and they finally arrived at the capital. First thing, walking into the Winterfell family townhouse, Glenn decided to show his wife her room, but suddenly a maid stopped them. The lady got a letter from the duchy. Turns out it's from Aiden. He wanted to say this in person but had to send a letter instead. He's bummed he couldn't make her engagement party. He's sending his congrats late but hopes to see her soon. Speaking of which, Glenn sent an invitation, so he asked his wife to double-check it. It's that event where people represent their families and compete against each other. Someone from our family's competing too. Fabian decided to go. Glenn's already so done with him. The guy doesn't even know how to explain that he can't go. The arena's almost as big as a fortress, but the tournament only happens once or twice a year. Gladiator culture's huge in the capital. That's why it was built. It's so packed, there are no days off. Nadia used to come here all the time with her dad. Didn't really have a choice. Of course, Dad wouldn't miss an event like this for the world, so he's got to be around here somewhere. That voice, chillingly familiar, rang in his ears. The Duke finally saw his daughter. They really hadn't seen each other in ages. First thing Nadia wanted to know was how he was doing. Dad heard she was in town but didn't expect to run into her here. Looks like she's doing all right, so he's happy. He thinks it would be a good idea for the whole family to get together. With her husband, of course. Well, who from the Balazit family will be competing this time? Guess we'll just have to wait and see. The sound of a trumpet echoed across the arena. Time for the first exhibition match. Looks like Nadia's bored, like most of the women. She's not really into watching the, action. So she's not interested in who the winner gives the golden rose to. She forgot about that part. According to the tournament rules, the winner gets to choose who receives the golden rose. Usually you give flowers to a bride or a wife, but if the hero's single, it's customary to give them to his lord's daughter. When Nadia was 17, the winning knight gave a rose to Korean. Out of nowhere, Glenn asked if she'd ever wanted a rose like that. Even though it's gold, she's sure it's not worth much, so she's not interested. Next up, representing Marquis Winterfell, it's Baron Lessard Knox's son, Sir Fabian Knox. In the end, when his opponent stepped onto the battlefield, Fabian felt like he let his lord down. Glenn didn't think it was a big deal since it's not that important of an event, so there's nothing to worry about. Actually, Fabian was more upset because he wanted to give the golden rose to the lady. Now Nadia can watch the rest of the tournament with a clear conscience. When the knight from the Balazit family was announced in the arena, people couldn't believe their ears. There's no way he should be competing in this. He's never been in the tournament before, but for some reason he decided to join this time. Even though Aiden can't stand him, Lee Ji-ho's got some serious skills. One powerful strike and he snapped his opponent's sword in two, taking the win fair and square. It was over in a flash. The rumors about his skills are totally true. Now Nadia gets why her father wanted to keep him around, even if it meant marrying her off to him. Their eyes suddenly met. That moment when everything slows down felt like forever. Nadia couldn't believe it. He actually noticed her in the crowd. She doesn't know much about fencing, but she thinks this guy's about to win. Looks like Glenn and I are actually on the same wavelength. His Majesty congratulated Lee Ji-ho on his victory. The rumors about his skills were spot on. People are saying this year's tournament was a snooze fest, but hey, at least they got to see the Dragon Slayer in action. Now everyone's dying to know who gets the Golden Rose, but Nadia's already betting it's going to Korean. When it came time for Lee Ji-ho to hand out the Golden Rose, he decided he needed to have a little chat with the king first. Before getting the rose, he wanted to throw down with someone and asked for permission to challenge him to a duel. The Dragon Slayers heard all the stories about the Marquis of Winterfell, and he's even seen him fight. When the Emperor heard the player wanted to fight the Marquis, he thought that was really pushing it. But if the Marquis passes, Ji-ho won't press the issue. Hearing that, Nadia told Glenn not to fall for his BS, saying it was totally out of line. The Marquis's mood soured the second he laid eyes on him. He keeps staring Nadia's way, and Glenn doesn't know what he's up to, but he doesn't like this guy one bit. No way Marquis Winterfell could back down from that challenge. He's in for the duel. Since Ji-ho threw down the gauntlet, it's only fair the Marquis gets to pick the date. Guess the Dragon Slayers wiped after the tournament. Glenn's being a sport, giving him a day to recover. But undefeated Lee Ji-ho's ready to rumble right now. Nadia's freaking out that they're really going through with this duel. She's like, what is even happening? This has gone way too far, but there's no turning back now. First thing Nadia did was tell her husband not to get hurt. And even though it's just superstition, there's this belief that if you take something from your wife, you'll have good luck. Glenn's super grateful, but he's sure there's nothing to worry about. Victory's a lock. Everyone and their mother wants to see this duel. It's the showdown of the century. Everyone's betting on Lee Ji-ho, no doubt, but Marquis Winterfell's no pushover either. This fight's gonna be epic. Ji-ho's acting kinda weird. Glenn's thinking about it. At first, he figured Ji-ho just wanted to win. The only thing he doesn't get is, who's he gonna give the gold rose to if he wins? The Lord doesn't have a wife or fiancé. From Ji-ho's point of view, giving it to the Duke Balazit's daughter would make sense. Although the Marchioness could use a little something to cheer her up, she'd definitely be surprised by the offer. That feeling, Glenn knows it all too well. There's no desire to win in those eyes. Looks like the Lord's got some personal reasons for this rivalry. Knights drew their swords. The clash of steel echoed through the stadium. Let the battle begin. When Glenn guessed the Lord's hometown was on the eastern continent, he said it was way farther than that. The Marquis might not know how they do things over there, but around here, messing with another man's wife has consequences. Ji-ho gets it, and he's got a point. No kids between those two makes the whole split way easier. He's betting the Duke never planned on leaving his daughter stuck up north forever. Glenn's not too broken up about it, seeing as he's not the one who married the Duke. Weird that this dark-haired dude hasn't figured out yet that this was Nadia's call. Ji-ho says their marriage wasn't gonna last anyway, so he told him to enjoy it while it does. Sure, Glenn's gonna let him run his mouth, cause he won't get another chance after this fight. Ji-ho clocked him so hard, you'd think he forgot this tourney's supposed to be friendly. He just figures nobody's gonna be responsible for whatever goes down here now. His obsession with Nadia is freaking creepy. Maybe there's something the Marquis doesn't know. Thinking only of his beloved, Marquis Winterfell used his invincible sword's power to make that lowlife pay. Ji-ho just needed to dodge, but then a magic blast engulfed the entire arena. As soon as the smoke cleared, the true champion of today's tournament was revealed. Glenn Winterfell easily took down his opponent, dropping his sword to the ground. The king immediately ordered them to stop. If the fight continued, someone was going to get seriously hurt. Glenn's all for it, but everyone knows the rules. The fight goes on until someone gives up. With a chance to get back on his feet and keep fighting, Lee Ji-ho just quit for some reason and dropped his hands. Despite their differences, the Marquis didn't mock his opponent, but like a true knight, offered him a hand. Lee Ji-ho realized his skills were way better than people said. For a second, he thought his heart stopped when he took that hit. It's been a while since Glenn faced someone who could actually give him a run for his money. He never thought such a warrior would fail. He's right about that, but next time the Dragon Slayer won't back down. Oh, and one last thing. He asked me to pass on his words to the Marchioness. Nadia barely glanced at her brave husband before breaking into a smile, everything else fading away. Glenn really pulled it off. He defended his wife's honor because he'd never give her up to anyone. The victor, Glenn Winterfell, greeted his Imperial Majesty. Nadia's glad the competition wrapped up okay. When you think about it, Glenn's got so much power, there's really nothing to worry about. Now it's time to offer the flower to the lady. A little nervous, the Marquis headed straight for his Nadia. His offer felt like the most important question in her life. She had to decide if she'd accept his rose. Of course she'll take it. Every day she spends with him means even more than 100 roses. Thanks to the Marquis, this day finally arrived. If he'd known Nadia would be this happy, he would have stepped in for Fabian himself. She never thought she'd enjoy this so much either. She always figured it was just childish jealousy of Korean, but that's not it at all. Suddenly, something clicked for her, and she asked Glenn to lean in. In that instant, she kissed him, so shy and gentle, yet so passionate and deep, connecting their souls. Tasting her soft lips, Glenn forgot how to breathe and couldn't take his eyes off his wife. A lady who receives a rose usually kisses the knight as a thank you. On the way home, Duke Balazit wondered why he'd been so quiet, but he'd been planning his next move the whole time. He didn't even consider that the Marquis was skilled enough to beat Ji-ho. The Duke thought Korean was upset about not getting a rose, but she's staying silent. Actually, she's a little bummed, but it's a competition. If Ji-ho gets punished, it means the duchy is worried about losing. Her father's surprised by her words. She's thinking on a much deeper level now. But it's not that surprising. Korean's his daughter, just like her sister. Does the Duke really think we should waste a dinner on Nadia this weekend? Even after getting back home, Korean couldn't figure out why Dad thought so highly of her sister. If anything, things have been way better since she took off to the north. Come to think of it, it's kinda weird. Winterfell's been rolling in it since Nadia went there. It made Korean think, what if she's behind the cure for the plague and everything happening on the continent of Reyna? But the maids convinced Nadia's practically a servant. She couldn't handle even half the work. Still, after she left, you can only imagine what Dad would think if he knew things were going so well over there. It's still weird how he treats her. Maybe this dinner thing is about trying to bail her out of something. If I play my cards right, this could be the perfect chance to get Sis out of Dad's hair for good. Soon after the tournament in the capital, Nadia finally got another letter from their father. He wrote that he was bummed their meeting during the tournament was so short, so he suggested grabbing lunch together. Their families don't exactly hang out much, but before deciding, she asked Glenn what he thought. He'd actually been thinking about lunch ever since they got to the capital. The Duke's daughter decided to accept the invitation. Besides, she's got something to say to him. Her dad thinks she's some kind of mole planted up north, so she's gonna use this chance to clear things up. That made Glenn realize she'd been digging into Winterfell's inner workings to avoid raising any red flags. Truth is, Nadia's gonna play dumb about everything. She's just saying this so there aren't any misunderstandings. Basically, Glenn shouldn't think she's a secret agent, even if she ends up alone with the Duke. The main thing is, the Marquis trusts her, and since they got invited, it's time to pick out a dress. While Nadia was choosing an outfit to meet her father, she suddenly spotted a lizard's tail. Furious, she shoved aside the dresses and found Noah there. She still didn't get what he was doing. Almost immediately, the girl declared that no matter how surprised her husband was, you just don't yell at a kid. But according to Glenn, he'd been tagging along the whole time. You can't do anything else if Noah's doing the exact opposite of what he should. When you think about it, Noah's still a baby, not even a year old. He did it because he's super curious. Either way, the Marquis wasn't so sure this dragon was just a child. Fabian showed up in the middle of the conversation. He thinks they'll have to talk about raising kids a little later, because they'd finally arrived at the Duke Balazit's mansion. Their meeting with the family started at dinner. Nadia said she'd really missed home and was happy to see them. She'd been thinking a lot about Korean and hopes she's doing well now. Of course, Korean's doing great. She hadn't expected her sister to look even better than before. Check it out, she's actually wearing the pendant. Nadia finally had the guts to put it on. Speaking of, Korean congratulated her stepsister on getting a rose. First time for everything, right? Nadia's convinced that if it wasn't for the extra game, her sister would have totally gotten it. Still, Korean could have given it up just once. It's not like she's interested in that stuff anymore. The sisters must be thrilled to see each other. Aiden's hoping Nadia missed him too. All they do is ask questions. These talks might seem sweet, but you can cut the tension with a knife, just like Nadia said. Out of nowhere, Duke Balazit asks his daughter if she'd mind spending some time alone with him. He wants to hear about how she's doing up north from her, not just letters. And here we go. They're getting to the real stuff. Nadia's got a story to tell. Before she leaves, Glenn just wants to double-check she's really okay going alone. The Marquis knows what's eating at him. He practically spelled it out that she's not alone anymore. Besides, she's still a useful piece on the board to her old man. He won't hurt her until he gets the intel he needs. With that, the Marquis agreed and promised to pick her up tomorrow, hoping nothing happens to her until then. As soon as the Marquis left, Duke Balazit stormed outside and told his daughter to get her butt inside, now. Their chat continued in the study, the Duke's hoping the girl knows why he called her in. She and the Marquis look good together, even though before Nadia left for the north, it was clear he didn't like her. Whatever she says, Dad's gonna doubt it, so she just played along and agreed with him. Of course they're getting along. She's managed to get on his good side. To figure out all the Winterfell family's weaknesses, she had to pretend to be their ally. That's how Nadia got close to them. Still, the Duke's sure they'd never just accept her, even if they would give her that info. Nadia just won over the servants by paying them to work during training. I mean, she didn't really have a choice. She doesn't know much about the fall of Bolong Castle. Dad wouldn't let a spy near something that important. Now he's super curious what Nadia gave up to get anything at all. He's all ears. Afterwards, it became clear Dad still suspects her, but she's glad she can at least wiggle her way out of this right now. Jerry's girl will be serving the mistress today. She's ready to come if you need anything. As soon as the maid left, Milady suddenly spotted a suspiciously familiar tail in the window. Noah jumped into his mistress's arms, but she had no clue what he was doing there. It was so quiet without him. Nothing for it. Nadia needs to hide him somewhere. Quick. Good thing they're all alone in the room. Later that night, they were getting ready to sleep together. Suddenly, Nadia noticed a smell coming from the blanket and realized anyone's capable of pulling a childish stunt like that. Now she's gonna have to get the maid to change the sheets. Even after all this time, she didn't think she'd be able to break her of that childhood habit. Looks like Sis is back to her old tricks. As the older one, Nadia can't just ignore it. She needs to get something ready. In the middle of the night, the bell rang. Lady Balazit called for a servant to ask if she'd changed the sheets. Feels like there are fleas in the bed. Now she can't sleep because her whole body is itching. Nadia immediately demanded a doctor be brought, but since there isn't one available today, Jerry decided to bring some medicine. Karen couldn't sleep either that night. She was worried about Jerry doing everything exactly as she'd told her. If not now, there won't be another chance. We can't let this slip through our fingers. Not long before this, the Master told her that after the fall of Bolong Castle, they conducted a search for information leaks. It's still unknown if the culprit was definitely not found. The Master told her everything and asked her to keep it a secret from the Duke. Karen promised to keep it a secret so the boss could keep digging up dirt. Back then, she was just itching to meet her sister. Hearing a racket in the hallway in the middle of the night, Lady Karen went out to see what was up. The maid was freaking out, saying Lady Nadia had vanished. Right then, Karen smirked. Finally, everything was going exactly as she planned.